Welcome, friends, to the very first episode of Crystal Bearers. I am Droogle.
And I'm Ridesy Shoepuff.
And I'm Easily 18.
We are the Crystal Bearers, as are you guys if you're watching right now. Welcome to everybody that's in chat. I'm going to give a few shout-outs. We are live on Twitch. This is going to be archived on YouTube. It's going to be archived on Spotify and all that. But you're live on Twitch right now at twitch.tv/Droogle. Welcome in Emmy, Rex, Chop Cheese, Via, Tony, Fam, Shadowfire, Fennis, Lucky, and so many others. It is awesome to have you here for this very first episode. When we decided we were going to start the show, the three of us, myself, Shoop, and Easily, one of the most important things to us was getting together and sharing love of our favorite video game franchise, Final Fantasy. It's a passion for us. It literally defines who we've become as people. But we also decided one of the most important things about the show was that it was not just going to be about us. It was also going to be an interactive talk show, very much focused on having a conversation with the amazing community that surrounds Final Fantasy. And that's why throughout the night, you're going to see a lot of interactive segments and also some interactive things you can do right now in chat through Twitch channel Point Redemptions. One of those is changing the background of the stream. One of those is to provide XP to either myself, Shoop, or Easily. So you guys can take advantage of those whenever you guys want. It's a fun little game, and it will show up at the end of the show. But before we get even further into the interactive stuff, I do want to jump over to my co-hosts here. Start with Shoop. How you feeling? I know Shoop's really nervous. Are you all right now? Uh-oh, we lost your mic again.
Nope.
Let's head over to Easily for a second. Easily, how you feeling?
Hi, nervous as well, but very excited. Very, very excited. It's finally come around to where we can start.
Yeah, finally. It feels like it's been a long time. Are you still muted, Shoop?
I don't know, am I?
Nope, you're good.
No.
You're here.
I'm probably out of sync. As soon as we started, my mic cut itself out again. So I am nervous, but I'm excited. Rocco said that I'm speechless, and that pretty much sums up the whole thing. I'm really excited. I think one of the greatest things about this entire thing that we've put together, and just being on Twitch with you guys, is that I think this is something we've all yearned for decades. You know, a place where we can all just nerd out about the same things that we love in this whole series and what it encompasses. And it just makes me so happy that there are so many people that love the series as much as we do.
Yeah. We talk about this a lot on stream, right? That we come from this fan base of Final Fantasy, but we didn't really get to share it very much when we were younger. When we were growing up with these games, you know, I had some friends, of course, at school, you know, during lunch, maybe a couple that I could talk about Final Fantasy with, but we kind of kept it between us. You know, we didn't really spread it anywhere else. And now that we're here on Twitch, it's like, oh my God, there's so many of us. And we get to connect with all these people. And it's almost like we get to form the friendships that we wish we had when we were younger, right? And the mic is gone again. Easily. Did you have like, we're going to talk about a lot of Final Fantasy origin story stuff tonight, without a doubt. Did you have friends in the Final Fantasy space when you were younger?
So I had some, but one of them was a very tragic situation where one of them accidentally broke a platinum version of Final Fantasy VIII Disc 1. But aside from that, the closest I had was my brothers. My brothers got me into Final Fantasy, generally speaking, as they had all of the original. And I bought Final Fantasy VII after seeing them play Final Fantasies for years. And that got me into it.
That's really cool. Yeah, we're going to talk a lot about origin stories tonight. We actually have a dedicated segment tonight that you, the community, have interacted with on our Discord at discord.gg/Droogle. There's a dedicated Crystal Bearers category and channels on there for talking about our origin stories, meaning like where we started and what it means to us. So we're gonna save that for a little later on. Obviously, all three of us are streamers, and we stream a whole lot of Final Fantasy. Yes. Let's go over to since her mic is working. Let's go over to Shoop first. How's Final Fantasy going on stream for you right now, Shoop?
So actually, right now I'm not currently playing Final Fantasy. I just beat Final Fantasy I Pixel Remaster, and it was my first playthrough of Final Fantasy I entirely, and I loved it. I really loved it. It was very, very open world. There was minor sense of direction as far as like NPCs go, but it's not what I'm used to, which is Final Fantasy 8, 9, and 10, where the NPCs tell you exactly where you need to go, and they give you the mode to do so of transportation or what have you.
I should have talked about this with you a little bit. because
Yeah.
I just finished Pixel Remaster
You did,
as
yeah.
well. I'm actually, just getting into Final Fantasy 2 Pixel Remaster. What
Mhm.
you're saying though right now is actually what I thought was so cool about Final Fantasy
No,
1.
I loved it. I loved that I had no idea where the heck I was going, that
Yeah.
I had to figure it out for myself. And most of the time, like for example, finding the airship in my playthrough was a complete accident. I just wanted to see if I could cut through this mountain pass to use my canoe, and it was like, oh, you have this item that actually gives you an airship, and you just happen to stumble upon the location that gives you the airship. And I was like, oh, okay, this is fun. This is fine. But I'm looking forward to starting Final Fantasy 2. But first, I need to finish Kingdom Hearts 2, which I put a little bit on the back burner for playing Final Fantasy 1 Pixel Remaster, as well as playing through Journey on stream a couple times, and it was wonderful. That clip that you guys are seeing right now is when Raja actually broke my camera, so you won't get to see me doing much of the
I
actual
wonder
gameplay.
if all the technical issues that you've been facing since then are due to Raja just destroying something in the background.
It might be. My cat is very destructive. I love him, but there's a reason why my door is shut today. He is not going to be joining us for this podcast. But
Poor Roger,
yeah.
right?
How are you
Yeah.
feeling about Kingdom Hearts 2 before we jump back to Final Fantasy? Like, you haven't played it in a long time, and I don't think you ever did Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix, right?
I think that I did at some point, but I don't remember it. It was a few years ago, because I'm starting to remember certain areas that weren't in the original. So I think I played it on Xbox a couple years ago at some point. But I'm calling it a first playthrough because there's just so much that I don't remember, and I'm loving it. I think mechanically it's great. I think mechanically it's a lot better than the first Kingdom Hearts, but the first Kingdom Hearts for me had a lot of nostalgia there that I think I love more. But 2 has great mechanics and it has great combat.
I don't normally want to do this, but I do want to give a big shout out to. Let me preface this by saying this is a talk show where we're going to try and really focus on the conversation, but we did just get a huge raid from Jin, one of our special guests later on in the night, coming in with 77 viewers. So welcome in Jin and welcome in all the raiders. We are in the middle of a conversation about what we're playing right now. Shoop has been doing a little bit of Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster and a little bit of Kingdom Hearts 2. Your Twitch career kind of started with Kingdom Hearts in a way.
It did. I started streaming, like predominantly I played Kingdom Hearts, the first game, and then I played Birth by Sleep, and I did 100% playthroughs of both games. And for personal reasons, I took a break from Kingdom Hearts and delved into my one true love, which is Final Fantasy, and that's how I met a lot of people here today. And I'm really glad that I did. I was kind of nervous, in all honesty. I was just starting out, getting on my feet as a streamer, and I was very nervous that not a lot of people followed these games. And I'm like, well, if anything, I'll meet maybe 2 or 3 really cool people that love these games as much as I do. And I did not expect to meet as many people as I did.
Yeah, it's wild. It really is. Going back real quick to Pixel Remaster, just some of my feelings on it. What I was kind of shocked by, because I haven't played any of the old like retro style Final Fantasy games in over 20 years. And when I was streaming them, I kind of let everybody know, like, let's really treat this as a first playthrough because I do not remember anything about these games. And it turned out that was the case. Like, literally, it felt like I was playing it for the first time. But what shocked me was that it almost felt sort of like Elden Rings-ish, or like it felt so much more open world than any of the open world attempts Final Fantasy has made since. Specifically like 15, right? 15 was an attempt at sort of an open world Final Fantasy. Pixel Remaster 1, or 1 in general, felt more like what they should have achieved than 15 did in some ways for me, because it really was like, we're just going to drop you in this world and not like really give you any direction or instruction for the most part. Like, find your way around, talk to people. It's very simple, right? It was never like deep conversations. You didn't really feel character in any of the NPCs, but it was about talking with people and piecing together a narrative, a very simple narrative, and also a simple journey. Like, where do I go next? And those moments, like you just mentioned, with like finding the airship,
Right.
that happened for you very organically, right? Like that, those are kind of moments of surprise and like revelation and all that I thought were really kind of surprising about Final Fantasy 1. And I thought about, like, what if I were to play this when it first came out? Like, that would have blown me away.
There were moments where I was a bit confused based on NPC dialogue where so you need an item called the lodestone to get the airship, right? And there's this NPC in the Dwarven Mines area that is constantly saying that he's been looking for this lodestone for so many years. So once I got it, I was like, oh, I have to go bring him the lodestone, because I think natural, JRPG or RPGs in general, that he wants this item. I have this item. I must go bring him this item. And he didn't want it, and I didn't understand why. And I tried this for over an hour. I was like, maybe I need to go do something else first. So I would go do something else and try and bring it back to him. He was just hinting, hey, you're the one that actually needs this item. Right. I don't need it, but you, the player, needs it.
Yeah, for some reason, I'm just going to tell you this. It has nothing to do with me, but just so you know where to go, I'm going to say this random thing. Yeah.
But because I've played so many more like modern, and I say modern meaning RPGs that came out 20 years ago rather than 30 years ago, I'm assuming this is a fetch quest. He wants this. I have to bring it to him. That was not the case. Yeah. And I kind of liked that, though. It was like, it didn't make the player feel clueless, but it made the player think, I obviously need to do something else. Obviously, this is not the place it needs to be.
We've been trained as gamers to expect a certain trope in a way of discovery in these games. And I'm really glad. I'm going to give a shout out to Eyes on B, who told me when I was deciding the Pixel Remaster, how I was going to play it. She said, start with 1 and go through to 6, because you want to see how the series has grown and developed, right? And I'm glad I did that, because if I were to play like Final Fantasy V and then go back to 1, I'm not sure I would have appreciated it very much. But starting with 1, and what you're talking about, these very simplistic, direction dialogue is fine. Like it doesn't bother me, because like it kind of is charming and heartwarming in a way, like the simplicity of it as this game that came out in 1987. But I think it probably would have bothered me if I had some expectation from Final Fantasies 4, 5, and 6 or something, if I did those first. So big shout out to Eyes on B for directing me not to play it that way. Before I have one more game I want to talk to you about, Shoot, but before that, I want Easily to have a moment here. Easily, how's streaming going? You just had a very exciting thing happen on your stream this past week.
Tell us about what happened.
So, as some of you may know, I speedrun Final Fantasy 9. My goal is to hit top 10. Drew's note slightly off because I got bumped down to rank 18th recently. However, my run yesterday, or 2 days ago now, 2 days, yeah. I beat my personal best by 10 minutes, and that would put me to rank 13th on the leaderboard. As well as that, I've also submitted a time for the cutscene remove, which is currently the second best time submitted. It's not a category yet, but we're all adding our own runs to it, which will hopefully make it a category as well. So very exciting in terms of for my own personal progression. And honestly, the time to get to top 10, it's about another, I think, 8 minutes, I think it was. I think I can very easily do it from where I was sat. I made some mistakes that are very easy fixable. It just went well. So I can really.
That's awesome. Congratulations. Even if it doesn't get accepted, like in your heart, it was a true run. The only reason it wouldn't be accepted, if I understand correctly, is because you had a moment where Twitch went down, right?
Yeah. So funnily enough, even though my stream died, I was still connected to the internet, because I could still see chat moving. I just was not live. And unfortunately, due to the size of it's something like 80 gigabytes of information per run, so I don't have the storage to locally record it every time. Fortunately, the only bit it's missing is the it's like a non-playable cutscene essentially between the end of disc 3 and the start of disc 4. That's the only bit that's missing. So there is a good chance it will be accepted. I spoke to one of the moderators of the 9 speedrun community, and they've said it should be accepted, but they'll have to speak to the other moderators as well.
I was there for most of the speedrun that Easily PB'd on. And those of you who don't speedrun, PB does not stand for peanut butter. I learned that very quickly. It stands for personal best. And it was a wild time, and I was there when the stream went down for us, but did not go down for you. And considering that there was no gameplay involved, that it was strictly cutscenes of the end of disc 3 and the start of disc 4, I really, really hope it gets accepted officially, because again, that would put you at 13th in the world. And I don't know many people, and I don't know about anyone here, I don't know many people that can say they can beat Final Fantasy IX in under 8 hours. 751 is insane. Like, you didn't just get a personal best, you absolutely destroyed your previous personal best.
That was with a reset on Death Guys, which is the third from last boss in the game, costing me 2 to 3 minutes at the end as well. I almost went from an 8:00:55 time to a 7:48, which is a hell of a jump. I don't know many runners when they're already at around 8 hours who drop as much as that. Normally it's sort of like 5 minute on a good end. So, but I mean, it's been a long time coming. It's been 2 months since my last personal best, and I've put in a lot of work trying to refine where I struggle, which is primarily why I've been playing the cutscene remove mod, because it allows you to get to those sections of the game in 2 hours as opposed to 6 hours.
It's funny, chat's like, right, I don't think I could beat Disc 1 in 8 hours, Tyrexian. I've yet to beat it in under 50 hours. It really is, like, for people like myself and Shoop for a while there, speedrunning was this foreign thing. Like, it made no sense to us. It really did not. It's been really cool to learn the speedrunning space, thanks to you and some others that I now know through you easily, and it's gotten me excited for my stretch goal in the future to do a Final Fantasy IX speedrun as well. I want to see, like, if I can do it, you know. I want to see if I can get under 12 hours. I really want to see if I can get under 10 hours, honestly.
I think you absolutely can. I will 100% say this though, and Shoot probably thought the same as me. The speedrun community, we all thought was very closed, very kind of snobby, like, you don't know the game as well as we do kind of thing. They are fantastic, honestly fantastic. The nicest side of Twitch, bar a few other areas, I have found. And some of them have raided into you, Drew. Some have raided into Shoop. They love both of you. They already do, and neither of you have speedrun the game more than, like, Shoop, you did your Excalibur 2 run. Drew, you haven't yet. They've loved going into your channels so far.
I want to touch on that, actually. I admitted this the other day to Keeper, who is also, Keeper's in the process of trying to get the world record.
He's third currently.
He's third right now, yeah. And Cap, who Captain the Dorks, if you don't know who he is, he's
eighth, I think.
Yes, but he's number 1 on HD console. So I had these preconceived notions, the same thing, that speedrunners, for whatever reason, I don't know why I automatically thought this. I thought speedrunners were going to be pretentious, or like, I've mastered this game down to Beatrix's knee bobs. We'll get into that another time. But they're not. They are so warm and welcoming, and they have this own little world. And I haven't met a single Final Fantasy IX speedrunner yet who has been, like, I don't know how to describe this, but almost protective of their own time.
Oh, okay.
I see, like, people who hold world records, Brutals, Cap, and they want their friends to beat their time, and it's so encouraging. It's really, really encouraging.
You're right. I've noticed that as well, that there's, I don't want to say it's missing, but there's a surprising lack of competitive nature. It really just feels like this club of people that are just having fun, like, trying to, like, have the best scores and rooting each other on. There's no, like, oh, I'm gonna beat you. There's, like, nothing like that. It's at least that I've seen yet. I haven't seen that.
There is some competitiveness in terms of, obviously, they want to do as well as they can. But if somebody gets a personal best time, they are over the moon. Like, I put my personal best in the Final Fantasy IX speedrun Discord after it, and you get this big praise because, for one, sub 8 hours is a massive thing in the HD community, and everyone just supports you. And honestly, if it weren't for Brutal's raiding into me during an Excalibur 2 run I was doing, I don't think I ever would have got into that community the way I did. He got me in, invited me to the Discord, gave me the links to the guides, and set me on my way, and said, look, if you need help, ask any of us. Keeper and Grim, them two particularly, have been there every step of the way. Cap of the Dorks, all the time. They're so supportive. They really, really are.
It's great. Yeah, it makes me excited to jump into that space a little bit myself. We're running a little long in this opening here.
Oh.
I do want to respond to chat for a moment here and say that this will probably be a little bit of a longer first episode. I think Farsender asked it. I think typically we're going to shoot for like 2.5 hour long episodes. This one might run 3 hours. I wouldn't be surprised because we're feeling this out. We're figuring it out. And as you can see already, we're kind of like talking a lot at the beginning here about where we come from, because this is our first episode and some of you might not even know who we are, and it's great to meet you if that is the case. We're so happy to have you all here. Jin coming in with a massive raid, and we have over 80 people in the room right now. You guys are awesome. We have a lot of great stuff that we want to discuss tonight, and I see we got our first Moogle mailbox that came in. Make sure to take advantage of that. Moogle mailbox is something that we will address at the very end of the show. We're going to get through as many of those as we possibly can towards the end of the show. So get your questions in. Primarily, we want those questions to be related to things that we aren't discussing in the moment, actually. Things that maybe are outside of the topic of conversation that we can come back to later on in the stream. So real quick, before we jump on, I do want to, for one moment, touch on the other game that Shoot played because it's kind of like it's been huge for her.
It's Journey. It's Journey.
I wanted Shoop to play this for like a year now, and she finally did, and it's your new obsession. Go ahead.
Yeah, if you haven't played Journey, play it. I want to start a cult of people who have never played Journey before and are going to play it for the first time. Animegas Arts played it because of my suggestion, and she absolutely loved it. And I think it's cathartic, and I think it's therapeutic, and it's one of those games where you don't have to think too hard. You could just feel it. And I think one thing that really got me into Final Fantasy in general was the fact that I felt so much when I played these games. And Journey, I haven't played a game that made me feel so much emotion in such a simplistic way in a very long time. And I do feel like, I will say this, slight spoiler, but not really. It is a co-op game. Sometimes you can find people. And I know for me personally, playing through the game, because I played it multiple times now, playing it alone did not have the same emotional impact that it has when you find your person, because there's an opportunity to also have the same person with you throughout the whole game. And you become very connected to this stranger who you cannot communicate with outside of these little chirps that you can make. That's the only communication. You don't know, and I'm going to be doing something on my own time, but you don't know what race, gender, creed, nationality, nothing. All you know is that you and this anonymous person have the same goal, to play this game together. And it's a very strange, cathartic connection. I can't explain it without spoiling anymore, but
yeah. Nope, you're 100% right. And some people get lucky and some people don't. That first playthrough is the most important one. And I feel bad for the people that don't get the experience that I think is optimal with that game. But that's the game. You don't know what you're going to get. It's different every playthrough. And that's why you've gone through it so many times now. And it's why over the years as well, I've probably played Journey about a dozen times. It's only about 2 hours long. You can even do it in an hour and a half. So it's this really quick, bite-sized experience, but it's very, very impactful. So I will echo Shoop there and just say, yeah, it's you're about 10 or 11 years late at this point, but you can never be too late to play Journey. So
I actually downloaded it because Shoop said how good it was. So you know what? I have it. It's ready. I will one day do it soon. It is soon, probably in about a week or two. Kind of exciting. So Shoop, thanks for that.
You're welcome. Jin said that he's downloading it right now as well. I hope he's not joking.
He's already said race me. So I'm doing a Journey race with Jin.
It's actually, speaking of speed running, it turned out that Journey actually has a very, very big speed running community as well. And also they are extremely kind. I met some people when I was streaming Journey that love Journey, and they were so kind, so warm, so welcoming. I don't want to spoil anything for anyone who hasn't played it, but it was shocking to meet the people that I met, and from all over the world. Hardly any of them are in the United States. You know, it was great. There were some major language barriers between me and a couple of them, and you know what? They were so kind and patient, and it was lovely. It was lovely. But this is not a Journey podcast. We can talk about that another time. Let's We can move
Speaking
on.
of speed running, I guess I could say real quick, I have been playing Final Fantasy XIV. I finished Heavensward. It was fantastic. The trailer for Stormblood got me so hyped. I'm kind of a little bit disappointed that I'm going to have to wait 2 or 3 months to play because I am focused on Tears of the Kingdom and will be focused on Final Fantasy 16 now. But Heavensward was such a step up over A Realm Reborn, I have to say. I liked The Realm Reborn just fine. Don't get me wrong. Really great world building. Got me into the characters, the races, the locations, all got set up in a fine way. A little bit long, a little slow. And then Heavensward, I remember when I watched a trailer for it, and I was like, this is a little drab looking. I'm not sure if I'm really going to enjoy this. And it was a little bit drab, in all honesty. It had some areas that were colorful, but it was a lot of snowy areas, a little bit colorless. But the music and the atmosphere, the whole dragon focus of it all was so good. And Stormblood now, I can just tell that's more my atmosphere. So if Heavensward could take such a step up over A Realm Reborn and connect with me, even though I wasn't sure the atmosphere would work for me, I think Stormblood is going to knock it out of the water. So blow it out of the water. So I'm really excited for that. And Tears of the Kingdom is great too. I'm not going to talk too much about it because I know a lot of people are wary of spoilers on Tears of the Kingdom, but it's better than Breath of the Wild. That's what I will say. So far, better than Breath of the Wild. Really, really good.
Well, from what I will say, from what I know of 14, a majority of people believe that the expansions have gotten better. They've streamlined them in a good way. They've done them in a much better way. Not to say that there aren't faults. Who knows? But if the reviews I've seen from friends and from other people is true, it looks like you're going to have a very exciting adventure.
Looking forward to
speaking of an adventure, out of the three of us, you will be our spokesperson through 16's actual physical gameplay.
That's true. Yeah, 16 is going to be a big topic of conversation tonight, of course. We are in the month of the first brand new Final Fantasy game in like 7 years. So we are going to touch on that a lot tonight. And unfortunately, I am currently the only one with a PS5. Actually, speaking of Final Fantasy 16, let's get into our first dedicated segment of Crystal Bearers. This will happen every month. We want to get into what we consider to be the best and most exciting news in the Final Fantasy space. It is time for the level update. First up,
this is from 14.
First up in the level updates, Final Fantasy 16 PS5 bundle has been announced. Japan gets an exclusive controller and faceplates. You guys don't have PS5?
Maybe I'll order one from Japan and get an adapter. Who knows?
I was going to say, I don't know how it works in the UK, but I don't know if I can get it in the US, can I?
I wonder if the faceplates can somehow be... the faceplates are really cool, I have to say. Faceplates are really cool. They're going to show up on stream in a moment here. That's what I would really want.
Via did mention the cost in chat, saying that it's $600, pretty decent price for the bundle.
Yeah, that's actually pretty good. A PS5 over here, you're looking at somewhere around £500 to £600, and not even in those bundles. So you're looking at $600+ not in a bundle.
Right. Yeah, and Kyan in chat says faceplates can be easily swapped. That's totally true. It doesn't matter if it's a Japanese PS5 or not. It doesn't matter. Let me put this up full screen for you guys. I think the question becomes, can you import them? Can you buy it online and have it shipped from Japan? I think that's the question. So
that's the question.
I'm not entirely sure if you can easily get them. But oh, look at that! That looks so cool. The controller too.
The controller is the real winner out of that. To be honest, personally.
Yeah, the faceplate's nice, but the controller is the sell right there.
Yeah. It's really cool. I'm going to put a poll in chat for you guys too. Will you purchase the Final Fantasy 16 PS5 bundle? Let us know in the poll, you guys. I already have a PS5. I'm definitely not at that point yet where I want to buy a second PS5. I'm going to wait and see if this rumored PlayStation 5 Pro actually comes to fruition. I'm hoping it does.
Present for Shoop.
I think if anything, she gets the hand-me-down.
Yeah, my option's not in chat. My option is I cannot afford it right now. It's because you have the option of no, I don't want Final Fantasy 16, or no, I'll wait for PC. I can't vote for either of those. I would say yes, but no, I will not purchase it because it's not affordable at the moment. I don't already have a PS5, and now my only option is to say I only want the faceplates.
And I personally can afford one, but I'm saving for a new car. So car comes first.
Probably more important, right?
Can I say that I will be playing it, I think, on Drugel's PS5 at some point in the future? Maybe later at the end of the year.
I imagine.
Oh, by the way,
probably a
I
thing.
have another PS4 Pro now as well that I got from my old house. So you can at least have a PS4 Pro now. That's something.
I don't want it.
I don't want it.
Don't think she needs that one.
No?
You can have the PS4 Pro. I will take the PS5.
Oh, sorry.
That's a good trade, right?
I need me that Final Fantasy 16. Looks like in chat the leader right now is no, I'll wait for PC actually.
Oh.
Surprising. Might be waiting a while. But yeah, PC is confirmed to at some point happen. I think actually just this week, I think I saw an interview or a response saying that they're going to start development on the PC version once the PS5 version is out. They were not being developed concurrently, is what we're understanding. And also, you know, behind the scenes of it all, it sounds like Sony and PlayStation played a big part in the development of this game, actually. That's one of the reasons, as of right now, that it is PS5 exclusive. They just were focusing on one console, and PlayStation was helping that happen. More Final Fantasy 16 news to go along with the game. The official soundtracks have been revealed as well, and there is an Ultimate Edition. It'll include in-game tracks and an expansive 8-disc set. Theme song Suki wo Mateta, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, is also known as Moon Gazing. Not included, though. What the heck? Not including the vocal track. Come on now.
That's a little strange.
I mean, unless they're waiting for that to be played in-game first as like so you get more of an experience in-game rather than already knowing what the song is.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's probably why. Maybe it'll be released after.
I will say, look at the art. The box art is really beautiful.
It looks fantastic.
That Amano artwork, yeah. Oh, man.
Here's the thing, and I think a lot of us got drawn to the Final Fantasy series and in general because of this, is the art and the music. I think the art style of Amano is just, I mean, it's unmatched, you know?
It's so distinctive.
It's very, yes, you can spot an Amano piece from a mile away.
Yep.
And
everything in it is always so clear yet so on. It's its own stuff. It's its own way of doing it, but it's so clear at the same time.
It's also really cool to look at Amano artwork and see how strongly it differs from what they ultimately went with. Like Garnet, the original artwork for Garnet from Final Fantasy IX, she has bright blonde hair.
Bright blonde hair.
Incredibly different.
Yeah.
I believe that's why she ended up with blonde in the in Trance anyway. I think that's why.
Oh, that's interesting.
She is blonde in Trance.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm fairly certain that's why they made her blonde in it.
Really emphasizes the juicy grapefruits as well.
That's what I call Garnet's butt, the juicy grapefruits. It's grown on Drew. Yeah. I do think that Kyan and Draco make a really good point here. On top of what the cost of the controller is, which Kyan said that the controller is $110 US. However, the shipping costs.
Yeah.
Not only from like an international shipping, but also from Square Enix, which have been known for pricier shipping. It's going to be expensive when you tack on the shipping costs.
That is very true. Another Final Fantasy 16 story for you guys. It has been banned from release in Saudi Arabia. And we don't exactly know why. All we know is that Square Enix was not willing to compromise in any way on their vision, and therefore it is remaining banned from release. So what do we think? Why do we think this would be banned? Based on what we know about Final Fantasy 16, or if we want to maybe think what could be a reason that we don't know about as well. What do you think, Easily?
We've already seen a lot of violence in the trailers, and violence is one of the reasons why they can potentially ban straight away. They can say, no, we don't want it. There's too much gore, there's too much violence, whatever it may be. And you can already see in one of the trailers, there is significant fighting, significant violence, significant bloodshed. Maybe that's part of the reason. And some of it is to do with younger characters as well.
Yeah, we've seen dismemberment, decapitation. icons and humans, not just like monsters being dismembered, actual human beings being decapitated. We've seen in one of the trailers, so they're not shying away from the violence in this one. It is the first ever mainline Final Fantasy game to be mature rated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I am speculating solely for regional purposes. If you think about this, like The Last of Us Part 2, for example, being banned in Saudi Arabia because of homosexuality and homosexual
Yep.
characters. So we don't know this, obviously. I'm speculating that there might be a homosexual character in Final Fantasy 16. However, or bisexual or pansexual, what have you. Happy Pride Month, by the way, June 1st, everyone. But on top of that, I think sexual content in general, I know from what I have read and from what I have seen in the trailers that there is a brothel featured in the game. So prostitution could be a big factor as to why Saudi Arabia banned it. Not just that, but just sexual content in general is very strict, especially in the Middle East. I know the United Arab Emirates usually end up following suit, so I wouldn't be shocked after Saudi Arabia banning it that the United Arab Emirates might ban it as well. But it's also the other speculation that I have is because of the religion, because of the deities, if you will, the multiple deities rather than like a one true God kind of thing. That could be part of it.
Like you saw, like God of War was another one, for example, that was banned.
Yes. God of War, most of the series of God of War is banned in Saudi Arabia, and I think that has to do with, yes, there are homosexual characters in the game, as well as the Norse mythology. I know mythology is not well liked in gaming in the Middle East.
And given how much inspiration the game took from God of War, it's
Yes.
very possible that that's part of the reason in itself.
Yeah.
So we'll have to wait and see. But I mean, it's unfortunate for any Saudis that want to play the game and they can't, right? Hopefully they can import it or something like that. But this is not unusual in that country for games to be banned. It's happened very often, especially with mature rated for various reasons that we just brought up. So we'll have to wait and see if maybe we get a little bit more information on that once it does release in just 3 weeks. Another one story that I want to talk about, getting away from Final Fantasy 16, which was kind of really neat. It wasn't in this month. It was, I think, maybe 2 months ago at this point, but very exciting because it involves someone in the Final Fantasy community here on Twitch that we know and love, Eyes1B, Twitter user Eyes1B, as we're calling her now, because she was able to connect with Matsuno on Twitter, get a response from him directly, squashing a long-running rumor concerning the main character Vaughn, and how a lot of people think that he was added late in it to appease Western audiences or otherwise, really just appease anybody. This idea that Vaughn was added late in development for some reason. And it was always in my head, like, this long shot, like, this doesn't make any sense to me. Like, literally when they revealed Final Fantasy 12, I remember specifically when they revealed Final Fantasy 12, it was key art for Vaughn and it was key art for Ash. I remember that specifically. Like, there was no way. Like, no, the Vaughn was there from the very beginning. But it was cool, very cool to see that this long-running rumor has finally been squashed. Now, Shoop, I know you haven't played 12 easily. Have you been played 12? We lost your audio, actually, easily.
I hear him just fine.
Maybe I lost your audio.
I think he lost his, yeah.
Since you tell this story very often, Shoop, I'm going to give it to you for a second. What is your experience with Final Fantasy 12?
Oh, okay.
You say it all the time. Just say it again.
He wants me to say it. All right. I played 12 shortly after it came out, and I played it for about 5 minutes. And I got killed by a tomato, and I said, never mind.
There it is.
Mind you, I'm 11 years old or so, and I'm like, I don't want to play this. I'm going to go back to playing 10 too. And I never revisited 12. So this was long before Zodiac Age and all that fun stuff. This is on my PS2. So I will be doing a first playthrough of 12 at some point. It might not be anytime soon, but at some point I will be playing 12.
Yeah, you've got to at least experience it.
Exactly.
We've got Twitter user B in chat. The famous Twitter user B is here. And yeah, like, it doesn't change my feelings on Vaughn. I get the effort that they put in towards that character being sort of a perspective. He's pretty much just a tool, a plot device in a way of perspective. he doesn't have a lot of development himself. The other characters are really meant to be viewed through his eyes. My argument would be is that a lot of the other characters don't really develop much either. That's my problem with the game in general, that it really falls apart after the halfway point for me. What do you think, Easily? Have you played 12?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. Okay. So I played a lot of 12. I actually really like 12 because of the way that you can interchange how the battle actually works. But with regards to Van, everyone says he's not a main character, and yes, he's not the outstanding main character that you want to see. Some would say Balthier, some would say Ash, some would say, I don't know. You could pick one basically and go they're the main character because it doesn't really follow a direct. However, the story in a lot of itself follows both Van and Ash as sort of a combo. So I don't believe they could ever have just gone, you know what, here's Van, let's pop him in. Because I think he was there from the start. I really do. Otherwise, it would not have made sense for this crossover, how the story leads into him initially. They have too much of a connection between Van and Ash for it to be some coincidence that they've just thrown in last minute.
I agree. And that's why they were the first two characters revealed. Like, literally, back in, like, 2004 or something like that, when the game was revealed a couple of years before it released, they were the first two characters revealed. So it makes no sense to me that he was added later. Maybe they decided to make him more of a focal point as opposed to Bosch. I know I've heard rumors and arguments that Bosch was originally meant to be the main character and then they switched it with Vaughn. But the idea that they literally wrote this character in late in development is crazy to me. Doesn't make any sense.
I have no experience here whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I find, unfortunately, due to the hate that 12 does receive due to its playstyle more than anything else, I find that a lot of people don't necessarily give it a full chance, and it's a bit of a shame. It's by no means the best Final Fantasy you'll ever play. It's definitely worth the
yeah, I agree. It's my least favorite, but I still think it's worth playing. I really do. Cayenne in chat says the story revolved around Ash, but it's Vaughn's perspective because he knows less about the world. Like the player, it's the same as they did with Tidus. I agree that it's similar in that way to Tidus, where it's almost like a fish out of water type scenario where you're learning through the character. I think it's done much better with Tidus myself. But also B in chat says the Bosch thing came from the fact that there was supposed to be a Vagrant story too, and Bosch was sort of a concept from that. Very interesting. I didn't know that.
There was a talk at one point of Bosch having his own spin-off as well.
As a part of like the Eve-Elise Alliance, series. Yeah. A lot of people don't know that. Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question for you. Did you only play the first Final Fantasy 12, or did you play the Zodiac Age?
No, I played both.
You played both. Okay, I just thought
Zodiac Age is a lot better. Like
it's
I would honestly, I would argue that the original is unplayable at this point. Like I cannot play it. I cannot play the original. It is so slow. It's so grindy. I would pull my hair out. Zodiac Age at least rectifies that. I still have major issues with the entire system of combat and with the progression system, and the grinding is still, I think, a problem. The story, I think, falls apart in the second half, but it's playable now, in my opinion. So,
well, not to mention how long the super bosses actually take in that game. Even in the Zodiac Age, the highest health boss is like 3 hours battle time, legitimately speaking. So it's still a grindy game. It's still a long game.
It's just a grindy game, yeah. In general, it is. I like grinding just fine, but there's definitely a line for me that's easy to cross, I guess you could say, where I'm like, oh man, this is just too much. Final Fantasy II Pixel Remaster, which I just started, I think would have been in danger of that very quickly if I kept it on 1x. I honestly put on the boost from the very beginning, as recommended by chat, to put it on 2x for the boosts, and I do think it helped a lot because I'm thinking about it like 5 hours in, and I was like, holy crap, if I did not turn that on, this would be so grindy. I don't know if I would have been able to handle it. So, but still, Twitter user B, congrats on your recent fame. We're very excited for you.
Can we rebrand you to Twitter user B instead of Eyes on B?
God,
I think it's already happened, actually.
Could you imagine trying to explain that though to a first-time chatter, someone coming in and being like, "Where did you get your name?"
Right.
Fun fact: Twitter.
Moving on. We've talked about this before on the channel and just in conversation, but it actually is being brought up in interviews recently with Yoshida, with the whole Final Fantasy 16 marketing run and all that. He said that there's been talks about potentially ditching the Final Fantasy numbering convention.
Mhm.
Meaning Final Fantasy subtitle as opposed to Final Fantasy 17. How do we feel about this? Shoop, go to you first. What do you think?
I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. I feel like, and I remember, and I think it was Rabo who brought this up. What are we going to do when we get to Final Fantasy 30? You know, however long. Down
We've got like 50 years.
Right. No, but listen. My point being, it's going to be called Final Fantasy XXX, and it's going to sound like a not safe for work video game. And
everybody always brings this up. Yeah, I guess.
Right. But B makes a good point. I thought we'd be at Final Fantasy 30 by now. Me too, because they came out
the games are literally
quicker.
7 years apart at this point. Final Fantasy 15 came out in 2016. We're in 2023, and we're getting 16. I mean, if you go by that, extrapolate it, what is that? We're looking for 13 more entries times 7, let's say. That's 91 years before we have to worry about this. We're all going to be dead by that point.
I want them to remain numbered.
I want them to remain numbered,
and that's my final answer. My Final Fantasy answer.
I agree. I want them numbered. It's a part of it. It's a legacy. If anybody doesn't understand at this point that you don't need to play Final Fantasy 1 through 15 to play 16, you're just not paying attention. I don't know what to tell you. I just don't think that it really should matter at this point. Easily, what do you think?
I want them to keep the numbers, but I want them to ditch like 10-2, 13-2. I want to ditch that part of it. I want them, if they're going to do a secondary part, it should be like what they've done with 7 Remake, where they've gone Final Fantasy 7 Remake, Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, had a name instead of a part 2, because in a lot of them, it shouldn't be a part 2. It should be this is a continuation. It's a different game. Please don't compare me to the original one.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is what, in my eyes, what tore 10-2 down as a game. It is always held in comparison to 10, and it shouldn't be.
Because it has 10 in the name.
Yeah.
Yep.
I agree with numbered Final Fantasies for mainline, but I think they should have a name instead of a continuation number.
Look at the overwhelming results. 81.82% of our viewers that voted said all entries numbered. I agree.
I feel like if you think about it, when we ask each other, what's your favorite Final Fantasy and things like that, all you have to do is say 7, 10, 9, 12. Like, people know. You just say a single number. Imagine like what Tony just said in chat, which was Final Fantasy Recoded. Which one was that?
Dream Drop, Reverse, Rebirth.
It makes things much simpler to just say, oh, my favorite was 6. Oh, my favorite was 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Things like that. But
who really turns around and says my favorite is Lightning Returns?
That too. But I do, to a certain extent, to play devil's advocate, on their end, from a business perspective, they probably are thinking everything tells us that we should be ditching numbers. Mm-hmm. That consumers are confused by them when they get this high. Consumers are fearful that they are coming into the series too late, even though none of the games really have anything to do with each other. Like, this is a thing. It is like a documented thing. There are numbers behind this, right? So, I get it from a business perspective, but selfishly, I want them to just ignore that for me. Just ignore that for me, because I like big numbers. Give me the big numbers, the big Roman numeral numbers. By the way, do not ever go away from the Roman numerals.
If I could throw a slight spanner in the works,
okay.
I don't want them to continue with numbers past 16 for now. I personally would love if they redid some of the very first Final Fantasies to a more modern audience, because a lot of I know they've just done Pixel Remaster, but a lot of those early ones don't get the credit that they may deserve, and if they appealed to a newer audience, they might.
I mean, the Pixel Remasters did that in a way, but not to the extent like they're doing with like Final Fantasy VII,
right?
Which has also been rumored possibly about 9 and Tactics. But
quick question for you guys: have you ever experienced in chat on your Twitch streams somebody coming in and saying, do I need to play 1 through 8 when you're playing 9? Like, does anybody ever say that for you?
No, I don't think I've ever been asked that.
I've been asked that by friends in real life who have no experience with the series. On Twitch, no.
But not on Twitch.
No, not on Twitch, not in a viewership. No, I take that back. I think maybe I've come across 1 or 2 people who found me because of Kingdom Hearts, and they knew Final Fantasy characters were in Kingdom Hearts. So they asked, do I have to play these games in order? But other than that, anyone who has ever been in any of my Final Fantasy streams, no. But in real life, yes. People have asked me, do I have to play them in order? And the answer is always no. Right. You can play them in any order you like.
Not even just in order, but just you don't have to play all of them either. That's the most important thing, is that you don't have to play all of them, right? Because that's I think where people get over, just intimidated, I guess would be the word, is they're thinking, oh my God, there's 16 of them? Like, there's 15 other ones? Am I going to, like, be confused? And I guess, like, you're not going to have that experience with the worlds and, like, the Cid of it all and the Moogle of it all and the Cactuar of it all. You'll be coming into it fresh, so you're missing out on a certain connection that we have, but there's no reason at all that you need to play 1 through 15 to play 16 coming up. And I was looking at the state of play earlier today for PlayStation on Final Fantasy 16, and I've noticed they made a distinct point of that. Like, they said during the state of play, like, you do not need to play the other Final Fantasy games to enjoy this one.
They really want to bring in new people.
Yeah, they want to make sure it's said in something like a state of play where you are potentially reaching new audiences that know nothing about Final Fantasy, which is not what we typically experience, because on Twitch, anybody who's coming to our Final Fantasy stream for the most part is somebody that loves Final Fantasy. So we're in a little bit of an echo chamber, I guess you could say, with our perspective. So I think it's, important to note that I get it. Playing devil's advocate, I do get it to a certain extent. Going back and chat real quick, I saw one thing from B earlier that I wanted to make note of. Another addition to this is Yoshi P has said in an interview released yesterday that he will not be overseeing Final Fantasy 17. I did see that. It also makes me wonder, is Final Fantasy 17 in development yet? You would think that there would be some overlap, right? Like that they would at least have like pre-production started, have like it storyboarded or something. I would hope. Otherwise, get ready to wait another 7-8 years for Final Fantasy 17. Like they need to start, like, you got all these different teams now. You got Creative Business Division 3, like you got these different divisions. Can't you start overlapping a little bit so we don't have to wait 7 years between Final Fantasy titles?
I can't help but wonder if there's so much being put in behind the scenes that has not necessarily been confirmed. Obviously, there have been leaks, but how much can you trust leaks? They're doing so much in between titles, like how long it took for us to get from 15 to 16, because you got to think about it. They did all these pixel remasters for console, for Switch, and for PS4 and PS5. They did Final Fantasy Remake, Final Fantasy VII Remake, and they're working on Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I imagine, I'm hoping that there's a Final Fantasy IX remake in the works. So you got to think, it's like they're humans, there's only so much that each of these teams can do.
No, you make a very good point, and this is why I think some people get disappointed that there are remakes being developed, because Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Final Fantasy IX Remake are teams being taken away from a potential Final Fantasy 17, a brand new mainline Final Fantasy game. But you're 100% right. If you take those two other games into account, that's 3 different teams right there.
B makes an excellent point, saying that technically the development on 16 didn't start until 2016 when 15 released.
Also worth noting, though, that was during a very, very dark period at Square Enix when they were recovering from the Final Fantasy 13 debacle, the Final Fantasy 14 1.0 debacle. They were
They were in shambles.
They were in shambles. They were just in damage control. Let's fix this. Let's fix that. How do we get all this together? Final Fantasy versus 13 is becoming 15. Tabata's got to take what Nomura messed up. I'll put it in quotes because we still don't know exactly what the story is there. And Tabata's got to take this and fix it all. Like, that was a mess.
15 being released incomplete.
Those are like a really messy, probably like 5-6 years of Square Enix and Final Fantasy. So the fact that they didn't start 16 until 15 was released does not surprise me at all. But we are at a point now where I think that they are very streamlined and they're moving at a good pace. And I think, to your point, Shoop, if they weren't making 7 Rebirth, if they weren't making Final Fantasy 9, I 100% believe that they would have Final Fantasy 17 beyond pre-production at this point, that there would be a pretty considerable overlap in the development of those 2 titles.
It's very possible.
We also can't rule out the fact that the entire world lost essentially 2 years of full production for
very good point. Yeah.
very limited things happened. They were still doing things at that time, but you got to remember they would have been a lot more limited. They wouldn't have been going into the offices. They wouldn't have all been working. Some would have been off ill. You know, there was a massive patch of time, and then there was still another 6 months after where they were all recovering.
Yeah, so that probably impacted a huge portion of why 16 is just now being released. Like, you got to think. I imagine if they're going to be working on a 17, which I'm sure they will. I don't think Final Fantasy is just going to die all of a sudden. I imagine that 17 is not going to take nearly as long in between 16 and 17 versus 15 and 16.
Let's hope so.
The pandemic really was a huge factor in things as well.
I do think that them resorting to Unreal Engine is also speeding up process. It seemed like it helped Kingdom Hearts. It seems like it helped Remake and will help Rebirth. So maybe 17's also done on Unreal Engine. But we also talked about Final Fantasy IX. And speaking of that, actually, Memoria Project, which is a fan project. We got a little bit of information about that this week, that it's going to be releasing in June, supposedly.
It looks incredible.
Yeah, and
I believe it's right after my birthday.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Shoot,
so from what we understand, this is not a playable thing. It is an experience, I think is what they're calling it. It might be even like an interactive movie. I'm not sure if you even control any characters in this. They have been a little bit coy on that. I don't know. Maybe if that is why they're getting away with making it, is that it's not being sold, it's not playable. Maybe that's why they're able to do this. What do you guys think? Easily?
I believe it's meant to be an interactive movie, as you said. So you make the decisions for the characters through sub-menus, but the game not the game. The Memoria Project mostly plays itself by the sound of things. You essentially visually play the game, and it's something which is supposed to give you an experience of the game which feels much more emotional as opposed to how the game originally was. Because I mean, look at the graphics of how Vivi looks when he falls, how he stumbles. It's somewhat comical when he falls in the game. But if you see what looks like a little boy walking along and just stumbles over, you sit there and go, oh, that's a shame. And and you see these kids running along. It might actually draw a lot more emotion into the game in itself, which is already quite an emotional game.
I'm emotional. I'm tearing up watching it.
If I experience this thing and the little girl doesn't say "Sawi," I'm turning it off.
Oh, are you talking about Ilya and her lisp that was?
I hate that they got rid of that in the remaster. She just says "sorry" now. Like, why would you change that?
I loved how sweet she was. Sawi.
Sawi.
That was part of her personality.
You take
I wonder if it was a translation a thing to make it easier across the board.
I don't know. You got to think about it. Look, I'm the queen of finding Final Fantasy IX typos. There's one in a chocograph in a help menu. You press select the help menu. Look at that chocograph. And it says treasure. You can find this treasure, blah, blah. But it's spelled TREASRUE or something. Yeah, it's all messed up. And then at the end of 9, when Senna says something between the two kingdoms, he doesn't say kingdoms, it's spelled out kind goms. And I'm like, you guys can't fix these typos, but you refuse to let the little girl say Sawi? Right. Come on, 9. Come on, 9. Kind goms. It bothers me so much. Every time I see somebody beat 9, I'm like, there's the kind goms.
Before we move on here in chat, let us know, will you be trying out Memoria Project when it releases this month? Actually, I shouldn't even say next month. I should say this month. It's supposed to release this month, June. We are officially in June, so
we are in June. Do you know what was the date of it? Because I keep getting it confused with 16. 16 releases January
See, I just saw that it was releasing this month. I don't know that I saw a specific date yet.
I thought I did.
The only date in my head's the 23rd, but that's for I don't remember. 16 is the
22nd.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I got 23rd in my head for something.
Yeah, I don't know why, but I feel like there was a date, and I thought it was around my birthday. My birthday's the 13th. I feel like it's like June 11th or June 12th or something.
We got another story here we need to jump to, and one that Easily shared with me. I thought was actually really, really cool. Easily, go ahead, take it away. The Final Fantasy X speedrunners came upon something really new and interesting, right?
Yeah, yeah. Have you got the video link to share
I
with
do,
it as
yeah.
well?
Yeah, let's pull it
Yeah,
up.
so essentially, the speedrun community for 10, and I mean I don't speedrun 10 currently, but they found an exploit, such a little glitch of sorts, where you can skip the Operation Mihan. So if you see here how as the god runs around and Titus or Titus, as some would correct me on, you see him moving in the background, right? He moves into a placement, and as the guard runs through, it pushes you through an invisible wall, and you're allowed to skip through to the aftermath of Operation Mayhem. You skip the entire bit. You don't fight the sin spawn. You don't watch all those cutscenes. You don't have to speak to Seymour. You don't have to speak to any of those.
This is the
Any
most
of that
important
bit.
part right here. It already happened once, which was kind of hard to see earlier, but this NPC is gradually pushing Titus through an invisible wall. And getting on the other side of that invisible wall is all you need to do in order to bypass all of what comes after, pretty
It
much.
saves you, what, 15, 20 minutes at
It's the
least.
equivalent of Final Fantasy VII's calm skip. It is 15 to 20 minutes for a speedrunner. It basically, you have to be pushed through one section by the first guard, by you spam talk to them, and every time you spam talk to them, it nudges your character a tiny bit further, and then you get pushed into the little cutscene where the guard runs out and speaks to Yuna, and you have free to run through. Because you haven't initiated that yourself. So you run through. When you get to the other side, you repeat the same process. You speak to the guard as he's trying to run through, and it nudges you because of the character collision in 10. And like I say, you get through this wall, and it's not a easy thing to do by the looks of things, but it's such a big skip, and it was such a huge bit of news in the 10 community.
Mm-hmm.
And this was just recently discovered.
About 3,
Within the
4,
last
5
couple
weeks ago,
weeks.
something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, I would probably say it's about a month old now.
I remember people talking about it, and I ended up looking it up. What is it referred to? What's because the person who found it, it's
Terra skip.
the Terra skip.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
There are lots of nice skips in 9, by the way, B. There is an any percent run where you can skip things like the prison cage fights entirely. You can skip running into the Black Mage Village. You can just drop down the cliff. There's skips where you can glitch through the bell in Gizmaluk's Grotto to skip the interaction with the Moogles. There's all sorts of little skips.
The disc 3 skip that you did when you're controlling Steiner, with him and Beatrix running through the townspeople, skipping the Mistodons.
Oh, the Mistodon skips. Yeah,
that was
it
wild
saves you
to
about
me.
2 minutes. Yeah.
The first time I saw that, I was like, "How dare you!" And I was like, "Wait, but you don't have to fight these. You don't have to like." It was nuts.
First 2 ones you can just avoid as long as Beatrix doesn't get stuck on a wall. But yeah. Yeah, on PS2 was I think you can kind of glitch through some of them on PS2 B, but I'm not sure about all of them.
That Das Brutal's that one.
He doesn't run any percent.
Oh, he doesn't.
Not any percent to like glitch, not the ones where they glitch.
Okay.
He'll do a no major. I mean, I don't think there is any major skips in PS2's version. PS1, PS2. I think it's only on HD.
Okay.
We got one more story here. It's kind of a big one in a way, depending on how we want to treat it, because we have PlayStation Experience showcase, I should say, this past week. There's actually a fair amount of disappointment surrounding this PlayStation showcase because I think a lot of people expected more from it. Especially, a lot of people expected Final Fantasy things to be there. And the one thing that we did get was Final Fantasy 16 at the showcase, which isn't too surprising. It goes both ways. I think some people are like, oh, I don't think it'll be there because we've got the launch event on the 12th or something like that, and the game comes out on the 22nd. Like, haven't they shown us enough? And then in the same breath, it's like, well, yeah, the game's right around the corner. Why wouldn't they show it off? But what wasn't there was, I think, what's more interesting for a lot of people. It's like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, the rumored Final Fantasy IX Remake, the rumored Final Fantasy Tactics Remaster, all these things that weren't there.
There was nothing. Absolutely nothing.
I was not surprised that there was no 9 remake, no Tactics remake. I was surprised, however, that they did not display any, and I mean anything, for Rebirth. I was shocked.
Yeah, no Dirge Cerberus, no remake, no 9, no, literally just 16. That's just disappointing.
I thought
it really is.
I thought towards the end, because they showcased 12 to 13 minutes of Spider-Man.
It was a lot.
Yeah, I really thought that we would get 2 big ones at the end. And I was like, well, we haven't seen Spider-Man yet. We know we're seeing Spider-Man at some point. Okay, we know this is going to be a big one. I really thought that they were going to give us Rebirth or some kind of remake at the end. And they just gave us 13 minutes of Spider-Man. I was shocked. And it wasn't even just 13 minutes of trailer. It was almost like demo. It was like watching someone play a demo of Spider-Man. And I felt like it was a very
par for the course with PlayStation. That's kind of how they handle their big first party AAA reveals. They usually do a big set piece. So that wasn't surprising. I think it was too long. They don't normally go 12, 13 minutes. I'd say usually you're more in like the 5 to 8 range. So it felt like it was overly long. But I'd be lying if I didn't say I wasn't disappointed by the lack of 7 Rebirth or even 9 Remake. I knew 9 Remake was a long shot. We talked about this. We had a little bit of like a betting session prior to the start of the stream, Shoop and I. And I said, like, the thing that would excite me more than anything else in the world, even more so than 7 Rebirth, would be if 9 Remake was revealed. I'm not surprised it wasn't there, but I'm a little surprised.
So quick.
I'm a little surprised that 7 Rebirth wasn't. So what do we think is the case then? We've got a lot coming up. I do believe 9 Remake is going to happen. I do believe Tactics Remake Remaster is going to happen. And we know 7 Rebirth is coming out in the next year. At the most, I would say. We're in the 35th anniversary of Final Fantasy. When are we getting these reveals, you guys think?
You probably give it a couple of months after 16's release, and then maybe we'll start seeing some more announcements towards 7 Remakes in particular. I do believe that they are going to allow as much hype as they can for 16 as the first mainstay game in a good number of years. And even then, I personally believe that it won't be out by winter this year.
You don't think that 7 Rebirth will be out by winter this year? I don't think so either, if we're talking about by the end of this year, December. And I think, based on what they said next winter when they revealed it, and that means winter 2023 to 2024. It could release as far out as the end of March, which really just essentially means it's coming out this fiscal year for them.
Right.
So, and I do think there's a chance that it comes out before the end of March next year. I don't think it comes out this year for sure. There's no way. I think it comes out this year. But, I mean, I think they've got to do a 35th anniversary event. They still technically have not had one.
But here's the thing, and this is what was in my mind too, was that it said winter 2023.
No, it
not
didn't.
Winter 2024.
It did not say winter 2023.
It said 2023.
It said next winter. Specifically, it said the words next winter.
There were 2 posts. One said next winter. One said winter 2023.
Which one?
So it was in one of the trailers did say winter 2023. I'm sure it did. I only
then it'll be the second one.
I only rewatched
because I remember the first
ago.
one pretty vividly saying next winter.
That was the first one, the first reveal.
Here's the thing: winter 2023 is about like 10 days long. Like winter starts in December, like 21st or 22nd. So if you're going winter 2023, that would mean you're releasing in the very final like 10 days of the year.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I think they're counting winter as in December through March. I think they're counting it as sometime in that time period.
Right. Which would be next
that's the 2023 winter.
Yeah. Right, which means it could release in 2024 as well, right? And still fall within their like wording. Like they wouldn't be lying technically. Yeah. Right.
I still think we should have gotten something for the showcase. I was pissed that we didn't get anything at the showcase. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
They could have done so many, even just little like 30-second snippet. You know, like when they very, very first announced that they were doing remake, it was only very brief, the very first announcement, and they could have done that again.
Yeah.
Just something, anything. I
noticed that the poll in chat seems like a lot of middle of the road feelings on PlayStation experiences. I even saw some D's in there, so definitely some disappointment.
I personally voted for a B, and the only reason why I did not vote C was because it's Journey. It's Journey.
Sword of the Sea.
I'm very excited for Sword of the Sea. Yeah. And I just found it very fascinating that I fell in love with Journey, a game that came out 11 years ago on PS3, that I fell in love with this game within a week of this showcase, and they're making another game. It's not that game company. It's Giant Squid, but I don't care. It's the same artists, and it's the same art style, and it's the same concept. And that's what gripped me. In all honesty, I don't care what indie developer produces the game. I care that the artists stay true to their art. And that's why I fell in love with it.
Yeah. I would probably give it a B-. It's like, I don't want to get into the C area, but it's barely in the B area for me. I thought it was a fine showcase, but I do think expectations also determine your final score in a situation like this. And we waited 22 months or something like that for a PlayStation showcase. It was such a long time to wait. For one, I definitely was expecting more. And not just like Final Fantasy. Like, honestly, that's fine. I was expecting more from their first party studios. We probably shouldn't get into that now. This is a Final Fantasy talk show, but yeah, I was definitely disappointed by the lack of first party studios that weren't showing just a CG reveal trailer that tells us nothing about the game.
I agree. They could have done a lot more other games, not just from the Final Fantasy, but they could have done a lot more other games. They had a lot of time and a lot of availability to do it.
B, that was a Square Enix showcase, right? Where Guardians of the Galaxy was shown for 30 minutes. It's kind of similar to when they showed Avengers for like a huge amount of time that one time. That was the year that they revealed 7 Remake, or re-revealed it, I should say, which was amazing. It was so good. And then Avengers followed it up with like 30 minutes. It was way too long. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. We talked about early in the show how this is an interactive talk show, right? And we do have a dedicated segment where you guys can talk with us. It's found through our Discord at discord.gg/Droogle. So get on there so you can be part of this segment. Question.
It is very active.
Question of the month.
So
this is going to happen every month, you guys. There's going to be a dedicated question on the Discord for you to answer, and you might get featured live here on the show. We are going to do a little bit of RNG magic here because we got so many responses. And we're going to have to make up a little bit of time here. We had 13, I think. Yeah, 13 responses. And so many of them were so good, you guys. Yeah. I feel bad skipping any of them, but we're going to have to. So let's reveal what the question is first. It is, what is your Final Fantasy origin story? Meaning, what originally brought you into the franchise, and how has Final Fantasy impacted your life since its introduction? And let's do a little RNG right off the bat here. We've got 13, as I said. So RNG 13 gives us number 2, and that is Dubsy GG, who wrote in saying, my brother was 8 years older than me and was already a huge gamer by the time I came around. First game that he ever taught me how to play was Secret of Mana on the Super Nintendo, and I fell in love with it. We both saved up all of our money and stood in line at EB Games on release day for Final Fantasy VII in North America. I was 7 years old at the time. We spent the next year playing the game nonstop and finding out every little secret and tidbit that we could, scribbling all the notes in these little notebooks we carried everywhere. It was our first Final Fantasy, our first PlayStation, and it was the first game that was new for both of us. We laughed, we cheered, and we cried together. In 2001, my brother was killed in a car accident, and it broke me. I lost my best friend, and I was just lost altogether. A few months after, I picked up Final Fantasy VII again, and for the first time since everything had happened, I felt like he was right there in the room with me. I have played Final Fantasy VII from start to finish at least once a year, every year since. It has always stayed with me, and it remains my connection to my brother even to this day. That was hard for me to read for a second there. I got a little nervous.
I think it was hard for shoot.
That was tough. Dubsy, thank you so much for sharing that story with us. That is a really special connection that you had with your brother. And I'm glad that you get to still live that connection to this day with Final Fantasy VII. My favorite game of all time, and something that impacted me in such a major way as well. A really beautiful story. Thank you for sharing that. I'm gonna do an RNG for you, Easily, real quick. Let's see what you get. Read us number 7, please, Easily.
Number 7. Bear with me a moment. I was on the wrong page.
I have my notes pulled up on this other monitor.
Okay, so number 7. Okay, so it's What the Bassets one, which is when I originally started my Final Fantasy story. I actually tried out Final Fantasy VIII for the first time, Not really the Final Fantasy you want to start with. At the time, I was just getting into games like Zelda and other action games. I didn't start playing gamer games until 1998 with Metal Gear Solid. So I was going through a bunch of new games, and then I heard of a new game called Final Fantasy VIII. I didn't know what it was at the time, and I decided to give it a rental if I ever saw it. The commercials I saw for the game had me really interested, and it looked so amazing. I rented it, and I immediately regretted it. I didn't know what the hell to do, and the combat didn't make much sense. You have to use menu to do combat? What the hell is this? So yeah, my original time with Final Fantasy VIII wasn't great, so I gave up on the game. Fast forward to 2001, I had much more experience with games, and I wanted to come back to Final Fantasy, especially since my friend in high school couldn't stop raving about Final Fantasy IX. So in 2001, I decided to try out Final Fantasy X, which had just come out, and it was right before Christmas. I fell instantly in love with the characters, graphics, and while at the time I wasn't thrilled about the menu-based system, I really wanted to give it a try. Turn-based gameplay never was my strong suit, so it was a bit of a learning curve to figure out the ins and outs of the system, but I persevered and it took a couple of months, but I finally beat the game. Then I went back to play other Final Fantasy games, and the one that made me love the series was Final Fantasy IX, and was my favorite Final Fantasy until Final Fantasy XIV dropped in 2013. Ever since learning how to play the game, it has been my favorite series since then.
It's really funny, the whole Final Fantasy VIII thing. I remember when I first started playing the games, as I talked about earlier, there was only a few people that I was friends with that I could talk about these games with. And I sat with them at lunch, and I was so gung-ho about 7, right? But my friend was all about Final Fantasy VIII. And it was always like, no, 8's better than 7. No, 7's better than 8. I mean, we were like, 11 years old. And so I always think back to that. I got into 7 because my cousin actually brought over his PlayStation when he would watch us during the summers, and he was in love with it when he was like 17 years old at the time. And that's I didn't have a PlayStation. He brought it over, and I played through the entire game on his PlayStation, and that was the start of it for me. Before we go into another one, Shoop, what is your origin story with Final Fantasy?
8 was my first. I actually thought that that Bassett's origin story was really funny. 8 was my first. 8 was my first. My aunt and my uncle, and a big reason why I relate so much to Dubsy's entry was because my uncle had passed away in 2005. But he was my entry into Final Fantasy, and him and my aunt were playing. They were playing Final Fantasy 8, and they named Squall Poontang, but spelled with a U.
Yeah.
So I was running around the house asking, "What's a puntang?" But I would watch them play. And every once in a while, they would let me play with the controller and navigate. And I met a little boy named Tyler at the summer camp that I was going to, and he was so cool to me because he knew what Final Fantasy was, and he loved Final Fantasy VIII. And we used to run around at summer camp saying I was Renoa, and he was Squall. We were like 7. We were stupid kids. But so 8 was my introduction, but I didn't play it alone. I just played it at home with my aunt and uncle. And 9 was the first game, and my aunt and uncle got it when it first came out. And 9 was the first game that I played all by myself, because they also got 10 when it first came out. So I got the hand-me-down PlayStation. Thank you for the follow. I don't know if y'all heard that, but I just got yelled Radsy Shoe Puff.
I see it on screen, yeah.
Okay, somebody yelled Radsy Shoe Puff at me. Thank you for the follow. Thank you again for the follow. I got the hand-me-down PlayStation 1 when they got their PS2, and I got to sit down and play 9 all by myself. Before that, I just played again with my aunt and uncle. I watched my aunt jump rope to her heart's content. She could get 400 or 500 jumps. It was wild. But 9 was just me, my PlayStation, 4 walls, happiest place I've ever been in my life. And I was a very strange child with a very unconventional childhood and upbringing, and those were my friends. I don't care how stupid that sounds. Those characters in these games were my friends, and I loved them. Mm-hmm. And all I cared about, I had such an emotional connection to these characters in 9, and then when 10 came out, that was it. I was obsessed. I was obsessed with 9 and 10 my whole life since I was 9, 10, 11 years old.
I think that's why we talk about this post Final Fantasy depression that a lot of us go into, because it really is it's like a hole in your chest after you finish them. It's like losing loved ones. Not even just the characters, but the world itself, which is a character in its own way. You
Hmm.
know, saying goodbye to those elements in your life, it's tough. It really is. I always go through about a month, at least a month, after finishing a brand new Final Fantasy game where I feel empty and like lost. It's very bizarre. A lot of games do that, I will say, but nothing like Final Fantasy does it
Final
to me.
Fantasy is always touched so well on those emotions.
I
Always.
wanna. I was gonna say I wanted to touch on something really quick. Something that I connected with for a lot through a lot of people from the Final Fantasy community on Twitch is that some of us have experienced significant loss of loved ones,
Hmm.
whether it be a parent or a sibling or a close friend or an uncle or what have you. And 10 came out weeks before my dad died. And 10 helped me cope with loss as a 10-year-old girl, as a 10-year-old child. 10 helped me cope with the loss of family and loved ones. And it's strange, the solace that we find in these fictional characters that deal with real life situations such as grief and loss. And I honestly don't know how I would have navigated them emotionally without these games.
Yeah.
So it's just something I feel like a lot of us who have experienced that in our lives can really, really relate to.
Without a doubt. Easily. Or sorry, no, Shoop, yours is next. Actually, you can get to read one. Let's do
Oh,
number
yeah.
5, please.
Let me scroll up.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sun facets. Oh, this one is from Myth Carrion, my friend Myth.
We love Myth.
We do love Myth. So my love affair with Final Fantasy actually didn't start with a Final Fantasy game. It started with Dragon Warrior. Nintendo had been out for a year-ish in the United States, and it was all young Myth could possibly hope for Christmas. That Christmas, it didn't happen until there was one more thing, an envelope on the tree we hadn't seen, which resulted in a treasure hunt that definitely did end in a Nintendo. I can't talk today. The very first games we had with it were the ubiquitous Super Mario Brothers / Duck Hunt, of course.
Mm-hmm.
We also got Dragon Warrior thanks to a subscription to Nintendo Power. Playing that game, discovering the legendary Erdrick's equipment, and then later discover that you're his descendant, it was wonderful. My following birthday, I got this game called Final Fantasy. Loading up for the first time, the music absolutely took me by storm. Defeating Garland, crossing the bridge for the first time, defeating the pirates in Provoca to get that ship, and using that to explore the bay and Elfheim. Lo and behold, what do we find there? A set of tombstones, one of which was for Erdrick. I was all in. Fast forward a couple years, now the SNES is out. A Link to the Past is now a thing, along with Mario Kart and Super Mario World. But did you hear? There's a new Final Fantasy game coming out, as well as all the very funny and not at all lame jokes about the first one not being so final, huh? There's no super cool tale of acquisition, but the twists, the turns, the heroes, the music, I just couldn't get enough. There were so many parts where I'd get stumped, go to school and talk about it, and then ruminate about what I would do the next time I played. This was the first game I had ever played that I felt like it had a heart, like it had a soul. A couple of years later, we get to repeat the scene with Final Fantasy III. Core memory unlocked. I'm 13, sitting on the floor with the Christmas tree up, it's snowing, and my cousin and I are trying to break back into Narsh.
Yep. You know, I just did Final Fantasy 1 Pixel Remaster, and Myth was there for all of it, and he got to share a lot of his experience with me as I was going through it, and it made it very special. And he brought up the whole grave thing. He brought me there, make sure I didn't miss that Easter egg. But one thing that he brought up that I really connected with here was how, for him, it was the first game that he felt had a heart. And I didn't play Final Fantasy 1 when it first came out, but Final Fantasy 7 was the first Final Fantasy that I played. And I know there were many games before that had heart, many JRPGs like Chrono Trigger and such in the previous generation, but 7 was the first game for me where I recognized characters, a world, a heart to it all that I connected with. And that was the most important thing to me. And for that to be followed up the next year, I always say with Metal Gear Solid for me is what did it. Final Fantasy VII in 1997, followed by Metal Gear Solid in 1998. I saw that games could have this amazing story, these amazing characters, this amazing heart. And then the next year I saw that you could have this voice acting, this cinematic nature that really impacts you and is powerful. And I was like, wow, this is what I need. Like this, I'm a gamer now. They're like gamer TM, you know. Like I that was when I realized like, oh, I'm definitely sticking with this. And Final Fantasy was my favorite, and I say on stream a lot that Metal Gear Solid is my second favorite. Those are my two favorite franchises. So I had that 1-2 punch. So I completely connect with what you were saying there, Myth. Gonna do one more, and then I think we'll go back to Easily. I want to hear your origin story, but first, let's go down to number 12. That came from Addobeard, who I saw was in chat. Growing up, my dad was adamant that video games and TV would not be allowed in my house. He grew up outside, so he expected my brother and I to follow in his footsteps. Then I was 2 and diagnosed with cancer, and I had to spend a month in a medically induced coma. That age in childhood is one of the most fundamental times for hand-eye coordination. Being the early 90s, 1993 to be exact, there was some research coming out about the positive effects of video games, especially with regards to hand-eye coordination. Fast forward to my dad buying the family a Super Nintendo at the doctor's orders. While he bought a lot of kid-friendly games, he also bought himself Final Fantasy III, also 6, it's actually known 6 now, so he could have an adult game to play if I was sick and couldn't leave the house. It also helped that he was a massive fantasy fan. What he didn't plan on, though, was his son, me, also being a fantasy fan and becoming enraptured with this story world of magic and fighting with an amazing story. It quickly became my favorite game, even among all the other games a normal little kid would love, as I sank hundreds of hours into it before I was even in middle school. As time progressed and consoles grew more complex, my parents would get my brother and I various Final Fantasy games and even Kingdom Hearts to satisfy our love for the games. No matter what other games I was given or had bought, if I had a new Final Fantasy game, that was the game I would focus all my attention on to complete. Eventually, when I had my own Steam account, I was able to purchase my own Final Fantasy games, playing them repeatedly and filling out the gaps of the games that my parents weren't able to purchase. Even almost 30 years later, the games in the series have taken hold of my heart and have yet to let go. Yep.
I love that.
Another beautiful story there.
That is lovely.
I love that.
Thank you for sharing that out, Beard. I really appreciate that. Easily, let's jump on over to you. Tell us, what is your origin story with Final Fantasy?
So I was a little bit late jumping onto Final Fantasy as such. So when I was 8, my brothers together bought me a Nintendo 64, with my first true RPG being Ocarina of Time. And I loved it. It was such a beautiful game. I didn't feel connected to any part of the characters, but I loved the game. I was 8, you just play it. And then I remember they upgraded from their PS1 to a PS2, so I got their PS1, and they didn't give me any games that I wanted to play. So I go to town with my mum, and I took the £5 a month that I earn is pocket money, and I saved the money, and I saw the case for Final Fantasy VII, and I was like, I recognize Final Fantasy because I saw my brothers playing them, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to buy it. And I bought it. It was a platinum version of Final Fantasy VII. I still have it upstairs. Perfect condition. And I open it up. I got these brand new silver discs, and I play them, and I fall in love with all the characters all the way through. And then I noticed at the back, there is a black disc, not the silver disc. And the black disc is a demo for Final Fantasy VIII. And I found... I loved it. It only took you up to the end of the Dalek mission, but I loved it. And the weird thing, though, you had an additional summon. You had Leviathan as an extra use early on. So when I played it, I was like, why is Leviathan not here?
And also different music for the landing.
Yeah, absolutely. And then so I then bought 8 and 9. And then I bought myself a PlayStation 2, and I bought Final Fantasy X on release. I made sure I got that. And from there on, I just ended up replaying them. And the big fact that really helped me through things, as Shoop said, with the loss of someone, it can really help. And I did a lot of dumb things after my mum passed, but I also did a lot of looking after myself. And I personally wrote and completed Final Fantasy 7, 8, 9, 10, 100% completion with personal written guides.
Oh, wow.
In the 3 months after. So that is what it meant to me. It gave me that escape, and the characters. It was the first game where I really had connection to characters.
Right.
So, but
I can't say that I share the same loss that you guys have, but I will say that no matter what I'm going through, no matter what's going on in my life, if I'm feeling down or especially even now on Twitch, if I'm feeling lost or something's going wrong, it doesn't matter. Final Fantasy, if I jump into any of those games, suddenly I'm happy. It's just one of those. It's one of those series that just doesn't matter what is going on in my life. It's just the perfect escape, right? It really is.
I hope you don't mind me saying this. I noticed it last night, and I messaged. I think it was Myth. I think it was Myth. Because I was talking to a couple people in private message last night, and when you play Final Fantasy,
Mm-hmm.
like we love watching you stream other games, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know what it is. Anytime you load up a Final Fantasy game, whether it be, and obviously, no, you're learning your way around 14, but you're also learning your way around these pixel remasters of these original games that you haven't played in decades. You are your happiest, and we see it all over your face when you are playing Final Fantasy.
I'd say it's equivalent to like a childlike joy of the game.
Yeah.
It's almost like you get that passion that, yeah, you have for other games, but it's not the same.
It's not something you can hide either, right? I think that's why when a viewer gravitates towards a streamer, what keeps them around is that, right? When you can recognize true joy in that streamer and what they're playing, right? It's not always the case. I'm sure some people love seeing a streamer suffer, in Dark Souls and stuff like that. I'm not saying it's every, case. There's a place for everything, but I think that it is one of those things that you can recognize very easily in the streamers that you watch when they are at their happiest playing these games, right?
You can hear it in their tone. You can see it on their face.
There's such a big difference when someone is enjoying it to when they're struggling and not enjoying it.
Right.
You can be struggling and still loving the game, but you can see when someone genuinely doesn't want to play it.
Yeah, for
Let's
sure.
do one more. Oh, number one. It's a short one. Shoop, you want to take it real quick?
Sure. Oh, I have to scroll all the way up.
All the way up.
This is from Hunter Gwynn. When I was growing up, my uncle owned an SNES. You guys give me so much crap for this, by the way. Yes, I say SNES. I don't say Super
That's fine.
Nintendo.
It's better than SNES.
When I was growing up, my uncle owned an SNES where I played some video games he owned when I came to visit. There he had Final Fantasy IV, Final Fantasy II, as it was listed here in North America. When I booted up the SNES to check out this cool-looking game with a sword in the title that was placed on the cartridge, as soon as the Final Fantasy Prelude started playing, I was in awe of the music that Nobuo Uematsu masterfully composed. That was immediately followed by The Red Wings. I knew I was being introduced to something truly special, and from there I played other Final Fantasy titles growing up and fell in love with this amazing series. So Hunter's first Final Fantasy was 4.
Yeah. Yeah. And I totally understand that, right? I mean, I think we all have a connection with the music. Oh, man. I think it seems like anybody who's in the Final Fantasy. I've never met somebody who's not super into Final Fantasy that isn't also constantly listening to the music. They know Nobuo Uematsu. Like, how many other series out there do you know where somebody talks about this series and they're like, oh, this composer, I love them. But Final Fantasy, like anybody who's a diehard Final Fantasy fan, they're like Nobuo Uematsu. I know Nobuo Uematsu, right?
Well, I mean, it's good enough that I know you personally listen to it to help you sleep at points, do you not?
Oh, God, yes. I listen to it all day on the car rides. It gets me through a lot of stuff, yeah.
Isn't it primarily Final Fantasy VIII as well?
If I'm going to sleep, there's a lot of 8s. I do like me some Fisherman's Horizon, some Breezy, some Balam Garden. Yeah, there's definitely a lot.
He used to put his kids to sleep when they were babies with Final Fantasy VIII music.
I did, yeah.
Genius,
right? Yeah.
It put them right to sleep.
Get them hooked now. Yeah, they do like it.
For me, Melodies of Life from 9 was the first song that I really, really fell in love with. It was one of the first songs I learned how to play on the piano when I was a kid. I don't remember. It's been 20 years, so I don't remember how to play it. But
can we request you relearn it?
Yes, I want to finish Eyes on Me first, and then Melodies of Life is in the to-do list. But 10-2, as much hate as it gets for being a sequel of 10, combat's lovely. The music is even lovelier. 10-2 has some of the most underrated music in the entire series, and 1,000 Words. Oh, I can listen to that song over and over and over again. When I was a little girl, my best friend, who had no idea what Final Fantasy was other than me, because I wouldn't shut up about it, I got her to watch the full motion video where 1,000 Words plays. And she's like, oh, I love this song. Where can I download it? Kind of thing, like Napster or LimeWire or whatever we used back then. And I'm like, you can't. It's from Final Fantasy.
I funnily agree with Emmy as well. I prefer it to 10's music.
Really?
Not all of the songs for either, but I think 10-2's music for the majority is nicer to listen to than 10's.
Wow, interesting.
I think the bigger themes in 10-2, like we have Xanarkand and Otherworld and Tsukikirane from 10, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But in 10-2, we have Morning
more.
Glow. We have Morning Glow is also known as the intro that plays da 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 da. We have 1,000 Words. We have Real Emotion. We have Yuna's Ballad, which in Japanese with the lyrical version is called Kimihei. There's a lot more big themes in 10-2 versus 10. I think 10 has limited big themes.
I think you have high highs in 10-2 is what I would say for sure. I wish we could get to, we have 8 other responses and they're all so good, you guys. But what I would say to do is you should read them. Go read them on the Discord right now, discord.gg/Droogle. There's a dedicated channel in the Crystal Bearers category for Quation of the month. Yeah, don't miss out on a lot of these wonderful responses because there's a lot of really great ones in here that I wish we could get to, but we are already 15 minutes past where we're supposed to be. So I think we are going to jump forward into our next segment. Every month on Crystal Bearers, we are going to have a dedicated topic. We're just going to call it Topic of the Month. We're going to keep it simple. Topic of the Month, you guys. And as we said earlier in the stream, how often do you get a month where you're receiving the first mainline Final Fantasy game in 7 years? We're in June. Final Fantasy 16 releases this month, you guys. We are in the waiting room right now. This is the waiting room for Final Fantasy 16. And we're all coming at this from a little bit of a different perspective. Partially because not all of us can play it at launch, actually. I'm the only one here that's going to be playing it at launch. I have a PS5. I'm ready to go. I'm gearing up. But you guys are coming at it from the perspective of maybe I play it next year. Maybe I play it in 2 years. So has that affected your consumption, I guess I would say, of Final Fantasy 16 news easily?
I've stayed until we were going to do as this. I've stayed away from basically everything 16 related until I knew I wanted to make sure I knew what I was talking about. But the reason for that is because I knew I wasn't going to play it, and I wanted to keep myself away from the game news knowledge until such time as I could play it. So I was keeping myself in the dark a lot. And even now, I don't believe there's so much shown that it's ruined for me already. So it just made it so I don't want to know as much because I'm not going to play it as much. Yeah,
I gotcha. And I've talked with Shoop about this a lot, but I know Shoop, really up until today, you've really kind of been in the dark on 16.
I consumed more Final Fantasy 16 content today than I have since the announcement of it even being a game. And you know, part of that is what I recently learned, the acronym for FOMO, fear of missing out, which is I don't have a PS5. It's not in the cards for me right now. If anything, when I move and Drew and I live together, then I can, play his PS5 later this year. But I didn't want to get excited for something that I would not be able to participate in. And especially a Final Fantasy, not just a Final Fantasy spinoff or a fun title, or no, this is a mainline game that I'm not going to get to play upon release. I'm going to be very jealous, in all honesty. I'm going to be very jealous of the people who get to play it upon release because I don't have access to it at the moment. Yeah. And I did not see the point of hyping myself up for a game that I couldn't play, And so today I went and I've seen all the trailers as they've come out. I have seen them as they came out. Did I revisit watching them, getting myself hyped up? No, not until today to prepare for the show because I I don't want to feel like I'm missing out on something that everybody else is going to get to play before me.
Even as somebody that has a PS5 and is going to be playing at launch, I kind of did the same thing. Like I have been staying away from Final Fantasy 16 stuff for the most part from the very beginning. And I will say when the game was first revealed in 2020, I want to say, with the PS5 reveal, I wasn't that impressed by it, if I'm being honest. I wasn't really vibing with the atmosphere. At first, I thought it was some like expansion on Final Fantasy 14. Like it just like I didn't really blow me away. I thought it looked neat. Once I saw it was Final Fantasy 16, I was like, oh my god, we've got Final Fantasy 16 coming. Like now I'm excited. But everything that came before that moment, I was like, I don't know that I really care too much about what I'm seeing here. It wasn't really until this year, specifically with all the state of play and then really diving into the gameplay and showing that these characters really seem to have a great story behind them, then I'm like, yes, okay. I'm feeling the world, the lore, the characters, which we're all going to jump into right now, and the music even. And a big thing for me is the color, like the fantasy, right? Like when it was first revealed, it looked really drab to me, looked very like browns and grays, and I was like, where's the fantasy? Like, and it's not a surprise at all. We actually got I think news this week that might have been Yoshi P or it might have been the director that literally told the people working on the game to watch Game of Thrones seasons 1 through 4. Everybody working on the game had to watch Game of Thrones seasons 1 through 4, which I think is really funny that they made them stop at season 4. But also, it makes so much sense because as I was doing some research today, as we're about to get into about these characters, there are so many similarities to Game of Thrones.
You talk about, well, I was gonna say you talk about the drab. I wanna just touch on that for a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
The first trailer was very drabby. I'm just going to talk about the first three trailers. I'm not going to talk about the tidbit that was shown at the PlayStation Showcase recently. The first trailer was very, very dark and drabby, and it was like a bit of a, I don't want to say a letdown, but for a first trailer, I was kind of surprised they didn't do more. But I see why they didn't, because in the second trailer, it was all about the icons. The second trailer was all about the fantasy. And then the third trailer was all about the nations themselves. So you could get a little insight into the world. And the third trailer, the insight into the world, I believe that trailer was the one where it gave us a release date. I could be wrong. You can don't quote me on that. But that hyped me up big time. The one where I felt like, oh, okay, I understand some of these worlds and I see why some of them are a little bit drabby. Now I understand this is their nation.
One of my favorite moments was when we got to watch the trailer reveal together for Final Fantasy 16 during the Game Awards.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
You'd never done a reaction to a Games Awards before. So that was the first time of you like getting to have a community response, right? In real time to a Final Fantasy trailer being revealed. So that was a cool moment to get to share with you. And that was a really cool trailer. I agree. That was one of the best ones.
I cried.
Yeah, you did. You did cry. Yeah,
per usual.
The music. I think the music had a large part in that, and that's not surprising. The music in these games and Soken. You know, I will say like I wasn't too impressed with some Final Fantasy 14 music at the very beginning with A Realm Reborn, but with Heavensward and all Soken's work, I do recognize a lot of the amazing themes in that game, and it does make me very surprised, or not surprised, very excited for 16's soundtrack. But I kind of want to go through some categories here and our expectations for them, coming from all of us that are not really like diving too deep into information on 16. We're all kind of staying a little bit in the dark, being a little bit wary not to get spoiled. The good news, if you guys didn't know, is that they came out this week and said everything we've seen with this game so far, literally everything we've seen, is from the first 6 hours.
I think they've learned an awful lot from especially the trailers they released for 7 Remake, where they gave away so much of the game, because with this they haven't. They've left, like I'm sat here, I have notes on theories for little things just from the trailers, and I'm sat there going, is that linked to that? Is that this? Is that that? And that's just from the little bit of information I have. And if they have that much depth that it allows you to question things immediately, maybe it could be something which is truly fantastic. I just hope they don't give away too much and ruin that.
Right.
I picked apart, and I told Drew this earlier before we did the show, before we started. I picked apart the trailers on YouTube. I was watching them and then I was rewinding seconds, trying to catch little things that they might have. Because even though I'm not going to get to play it on release, I'm sure I'm going to get to watch my favorite people play them, you know? And I wanted to catch little things that other people might not because they're so distracted by the flashy animation or the fantasy and the bright colors and the combat. I wanted to look at things that Square Enix might have been like, oh shit, maybe we shouldn't have showed that yet. And cook up my own theories about what might happen in the start of the game. I won't project those theories onto anyone here today because sometimes I don't want to be right.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
You know, I don't want to ruin it for anyone if something that I have cooked up in my head actually ends up manifesting into this game, you know?
Let's start with the characters.
Okay.
Our main character, our protagonist, our new protagonist, handsome man Clive Rosfield. First son of the Archduke of Rosaria. He's the main protagonist and playable character. And as the first Shield of Rosaria, Clive is tasked with guarding his younger brother, Joshua, the dominant of Phoenix, and is blessed with the ability to wield part of his fire. This comes from the wiki article. I figured I'd just pull it up real quick with you guys. What do you guys think? First off, what do you think of Clive's design? You guys vibing with the look?
It's not too dissimilar from what I was expecting. I'm not gonna lie. The name very much is dissimilar from what I was expecting, but in terms of the character himself, he looks kind of what I was somewhat expecting from a protagonist from Final Fantasy.
At the beginning, it was all like, oh man, is this gonna be like another brooding, like mostly silent hero? But I think we're seeing in the most recent trailers that there's a lot more to Clive, actually, than just revenge. Like there's an emotional core to him. We even see him tearing up a little bit in one of the most recent trailers, and it was good to see that. Honestly, I'm happy that they showed that because I don't want some, like we kind of go with like Squall, for example. I like Squall, but if Squall spent the entire game being as he is in Disc 1 and 2, I would have really tired of that character. It's when he develops, especially around when Rinoa. I don't want to get into spoilers. You know what I'm talking about.
When he has a connection with Rinoa, yeah.
When he gets more of a connection with Rinoa and starts to open up, that's when the character becomes interesting, right? And I'm glad that we're seeing Clive has that side, right?
Well, I think that's the beauty of what has already been shown to us in these trailers is that we get to see Clive at different ages. And I don't know about y'all, but as someone in their 30s, I'm very pleased to see a Final Fantasy protagonist in their 30s and not 16, 17, And I think the developers thought about that as well.
We get the best of all of it, right? Because we still do get young.
We still
Clive
we still get young Clive, but we also get to watch his development change from either a child to a teen to a teenager, whatever, into an adult. So we get to see why he is the way he is throughout most of the game as an adult. But also, like I said, I think the developers thought about this, that those of us who grew up with these games, we loved them so much as children and as teenagers because these characters were relatable as they were closer to our age. We are all in our late 20s, early 30s, 40s, 50s even, you know what I mean? And they wanted to make sure that it was not stuck in teen territory forever.
Yeah.
Well, I think they would have quite cleverly realized that a lot of their monetary income is going to come from those people who are around 30 plus now. Because they're the ones who have grew up with these games, not just had them thrown at them. They grew up with them. And so they're going to be the most willing to go and spend the money on them. And they're also the people that are probably going to buy collector's editions, let's be honest.
Yeah,
so,
you're not wrong. You're definitely not wrong there.
I don't know a 16-year-old that can afford a collector's edition.
It's also cool. I can't think of another Final Fantasy game where you have this brotherhood relationship, like actual brothers, an older brother and a younger brother, and he obviously loves his brother very much. And we don't know necessarily what happens to Joshua. We've seen in the trailers that he might die at the beginning. We have no idea. It seems like Clive seems to think he's dead, but he's the icon of Phoenix. Joshua, he's the second son of Archduke of Rosaria. He's the dominant of Phoenix when he comes of age. Despite his noble upbringing, he treats everyone with kindness and warmth, especially his older brother, and he has a dislike of carrots. You guys,
he does not like carrots.
He does not like carrots. So I think it's interesting that you brought this up earlier, Shoop, that he's the icon, the dominant of Phoenix. Phoenix is all about rebirth, right? Like, so that could be interesting. But I do like that we have this dynamic with the main character of the game that he wants vengeance for his brother that he loved so much, that he was sworn to protect. Actually, I think is something that's somewhat unique to this entry in the Final Fantasy franchise. So that's kind of nice to get something different there.
Yeah.
I will say that from what we know of the characters, based on the information we've been given, they are not like the characters we have seen in the other Final Fantasies. They are vastly different in a lot of ways, aside from potentially some of the characters in 14, maybe 12 to a degree. But
Yeah.
I would say that a lot of them are very different and
I've
very
not played
new.
either.
Jill is another really lovely looking character. Everybody seems to really be grabbing onto her design. Really cool design for Jill. Voice acting sounds really great. She's a ward of the Grand Duchy of Rosaria who maintains peace between their nation and the northern territories from which Jill was born and abducted from. So she comes from the north of the wall, maybe. Along with being the confidant, she was raised alongside Clive and Joshua as a very much sister to them, and she's the dominant of Shiva. I was telling Shoot about this earlier. She's kind of the Jon Snow of this game. She's literally abducted from another territory, taken in as a ward. The brothers connect with her. Like, she's kind of Jon Snow.
I think Jill is going to be the most underrated character. And I think a lot of people are going to look at her and say, oh, this is the token female character. You know what I mean?
Really?
Like,
You
oh,
think so?
I disagree
I
with
disagree too.
that because of how much we see Shiva being used, and the fact that the cover shows Ifrit um
and
Phoenix. I think Shiva's going to have a massive part in the game personally.
Oh, I do, but I think I agree. I think she's going to be the catalyst, if you will. But I think starting out, I think people are going to underestimate her. I think they're
If
going to
she
think,
gets
oh, she's
fridged, get ready for outrage. I'll tell you that right now.
Well, that's the thing is, and from what I understand as far as combat and mechanics go, is that Clive is the only controllable person. You can have separate party members depending on based on where you are at in the game, right? And you have Torgal fighting by your side, but you cannot control your other party
No.
members, which leads me to believe that you can't control Jill.
No, you doesn't seem like you can. No. Everything we've been shown so far and everything we've been told is that this is a single player action game.
This is Clive's story, Titus.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a lot of Clive being the only character people truly get connected to because he's the one that you're going to play as the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
It's very rare that you find an attachment to characters that you don't play unless the character development and design is so good that you actually do link with them.
Yeah, I think Jill's going to be very important, and I think she has a confidence and like a power and a strength within her that I can just recognize just by her voice and her animations already. Like I love the way she is designed, the way she moves, the way she speaks. I think she's going to surprise people. I think she's going to be one of those characters that in a lot of ways is stronger than Clive. Not from like a magical standpoint, not from like an action standpoint. I mean as a character, as a person. I think she's going to be strong.
Look at Yuna versus Titus in 10. Titus, whatever.
Exactly.
It was all, this is my story from Titus, but at the end of the day, Yuna was the strength in that game. And I feel like that Jill might be the strength for Clive as well, in the same sense.
They have a connection. You can see in the one trailer, if you watch one of the state of plays, when they come in contact with each other again after seemingly a long time, the way they hug and the way they embrace and they look at each other. There's a little, seems like there's some romance there, which I'm down for. One of my favorite things in Final Fantasy is romance, right? I don't know about you guys, but all of my favorite Final Fantasy entries, the golden era, in my opinion, of 7 through 10, all had romance as a pretty big front and center thing, especially 8 and 10. I miss that. I miss romance being front and center, and I don't think that's going to happen here. Don't get me wrong. I do not think romance is going to be front and center, but I think it's going to be more about the brotherly love that Clive has for Joshua. But I do think that there could be some romance there with Clive and Jill, and I'm hopeful for it.
Given where Jill is from, I think she may be some kind of an outcast character for that region, who is essentially used for power more than anything else. And she will have a political link with him initially that grows into something else personally, from what I've read.
What do you guys think of our first dog companion, Torgal, ever in Final Fantasy?
What do you mean?
We had
first?
Shadow and.
What do you mean first? Are you forgetting Red?
Okay, dog.
Are
Cat.
you forgetting remake Red?
Dog, cat, rat.
Unplayable, four-legged creature that helps you.
Cat dog.
Cat dog, rat. Experiment thing.
And Angelo from 8. Yep.
I guess you could count Angelo. Angelo goes along with the journey with you. I would count Angelo. I was gonna say like Torgal's like literally by your side the whole game, but Angelo technically is because she doesn't leave Renoa's side. So I'll give you that one. I'll give you Angelo.
I love in the trailers though that you can see little baby Torgal as a pup.
Yeah.
So you can see. I think that's going to be the nice thing at the start of the game is you're going to get to see where this connection stems from with this dog and man's best friend. You know, it's not just going to be, oh, well, this dog follows me around everywhere. We don't know the background to it, but I know that Torgal, excuse me, and you can read this on the wiki. Torgal was separated from his pack and taken in, similar in the same way that Jill is. So I think that he's going to have just as strong a connection with Jill as he has Clive. And I think, I don't know, I think it's going to be really nice to see Torgal as a puppy and why Torgal is so loyal to this family, you know?
Yeah, I'm actually surprised that the poll wasn't won by Torgal. We had a tie between Clive and Jill. I thought Torgal would take it for sure, because I'm really excited for Torgal and having this companion, this very loyal companion by the whole game. Instead of going through all the other characters, I feel like they kind of fall into place as we go through what this game is really about, the War of the Icons, right? You've got all these different regions and empires and this, and they all have this mother crystal, as I understand it, that they feed off of, the Aether, which, you know, blesses them with magic and all these kind of things. But it also seems like there's a blight that is spreading through the world now. Some thinks that it's being spread by the crystals themselves, almost as like a punishment. Maybe the world is fighting back, like a Gaia type thing, or like a geostigma. And that's one part of the story. But there's also the fact that there's these dominants, right? There's these people in this world that can channel the magic and the energy of the icons, and each region seems to have their own, whether it be Ifrit or Phoenix or Shiva or Odin, who I think is I'm trying not what's the name, Barnabas is
Odin, yeah,
is Odin, right? And then you got Benedicta, who is Garuda, and I love that they're using Garuda, right? You got Hugo, who is gonna be Titan.
There's only 2, I believe, that don't have an icon.
Right, and one of them is sort of like a communist nation of sorts, where everybody's kind of like
everybody feeds from the mother crystal, and everybody's happy.
Let's just
share it.
Yeah. No icon there, no dominant, it seems. And then you also have the Iron Kingdom, which seems like real messed up. Like they're literally like, if a baby's born and thought to be a dominant, they freaking slaughter the baby.
Well, and it's funny because the Iron Kingdom are the ones that actually rule technically over Drake's breath, and Drake's breath is the mother crystal that gives power to the kingdom of Rosaria, which is the dominant of fire.
So they're fighting over that potentially, right?
Joshua and well, yeah, possibly, but I think because they're so adamant about wiping out anyone that might be a dominant, because they worship the crystals, you know, in a religious way, that they don't believe, they think that dominants are an abomination. I feel like those are the ones that are invading Rosaria, because there's also, if you look at a map, which I was studying the map earlier, they are the closest to Rosaria, and they're just to the west, in an island. I don't know if you can pull a map up or not now, but
no, I just have the video up right now.
But with how passionate they are about dominance being an abomination, and Joshua being like the dauphin, if you will, like he's supposed to be the king of France, but he's not yet the king of France, kind of thing, 'cause he's too young. I don't know. It's a thought. I feel like the Iron Kingdom is the one that's going to start this whole war.
That's what's kind of cool though, right? Is we don't know. Like they're really keeping a lot close to the chest right now. Like this one entity that we keep seeing in a lot of the trailers at the very beginning, because we know that Joshua is Phoenix, right? And we see in certain trailers that eventually Clive seems to be controlling Ifrit, but who is Ifrit at the beginning when Clive is young? And we see this silhouette, this cloaked character in the trailers, and we don't know who they are. We don't know
Yeah.
who's invading. Like there's a lot of mystery there that I think is really exciting. I'm happy that they're keeping that secret because I don't I that's one of my most excitable regions of this game, and also one of my biggest concerns when it comes to this game is there's a lot going on, right? There's a lot of different regions, there's a lot of different peoples, dominance, icons, mother crystals. There's a lot going on there, and I just hope that they're able to navigate that story well and deliver it in such a way that we consume it and understand it. That's really one of my major concerns. Just reading the Wikipedia, you can see there's a lot.
Do you think
There
that?
is-
Go ahead.
Sorry, go on,
Isley.
shoot. No, you go.
Do you think that there are more icons than what they've shown us in trailers?
Yes.
We had that one artwork that supposedly is like the big piece of like all of them together, and there's one at the top that seems almost like villainous in a way. Do you know what I'm talking about, Easily? Have you seen this piece of art?
I did see it before, but I know of 8 icons in the game currently, and the picture I saw only had 8, but they did say there may be more.
I think a lot of people are like, "Where's Leviathan?" Right? That's one of the
I
ones
think-
I keep hearing.
I think there's going to be like
Is
not-
Raja like
I-
going nuts back there right now?
Yes, you can hear that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can hear him talking.
He's trying to open the door and he's meowing. I
That's
might have to
hilarious.
let him in.
Yeah,
I think there's going to be some sub icons as such, who aren't region specific. But the big thing that I find kind of weird is that whilst the Iron Kingdom doesn't have one, it has unholy abominations, which kind of there's got to be some tie-in to how icons work with that in my eyes.
Mhm.
Because why would they have that but not an icon? Yet the icon of darkness is linked elsewhere. It
Yeah.
leaves a lot of questions.
I think
Yeah.
the Iron Kingdom being, and again, Game of Thrones, it's like the Iron Islands. And it sounds
Mhm.
funny, but
Yep.
Mhm.
what was the Iron Islands in Game of Thrones, their god that they worshipped was the Kraken.
Yep.
And what if that's where Leviathan comes from? The water icon, if you will, is
That would
going
be
to come
cool.
from
I
this. Yeah,
like that
that's
idea,
that's
yeah.
what my theory is, because they don't really have an icon, but I'm going to beat
A-
this child. I'm sorry.
a discovered
my cat.
icon.
The
Yeah.
another icon that we know of is Sid, actually. Sidolphus Telamon, our Sid in this game, is
Is he Rama?
also
He
Rama.
is Rama.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
Rama.
Yeah.
Which I think is really cool. I like that a lot. And he's also sort of a mentor to Clive, from what I understand. They've got this sort of almost like a little bit of like a father type dynamic there with Sid, the way he has trained and mentored Clive. So I think that's going to be a cool dynamic there. Benedicta and Barnabas, I've noticed in the trailers, they seem to maybe have a romantic relationship as well. Some of the sex scenes, as we've seen in the trailer, seem to be between those two. And she's a terrifying character. Like, not even just when she's Garuda, but when she's just Benedicta, I'm kind of terrified by her,
She
which I think
reminds
is really
me-
cool.
She reminds me of Scarlet from
Yeah,
Seven.
I can see
She
that.
reminds me
yeah.
of Scarlet.
Which I'm totally down for. I like
You
that.
Yeah,
guys,
okay.
will you all excuse me for this portion? I
No,
do
go ahead.
have to pee, and my cat is going to break the door down if I don't open it. So you guys continue. I'll be back.
Yeah,
in
we're
just a
gonna
minute.
jump on over actually to just like the
You guys go
lore.
ahead. I'll be right back.
So
Yes.
did you hear easily that this is the first Final Fantasy game to have what's called active time lore? And this isn't like the codex from Final Fantasy 13 or anything like that, where you go into a menu and read. Like, this is almost like, you know, like Amazon Prime Video, when like you're on a certain scene, and then in the upper left you can like do X-ray, where you can inspect the actors in that scene. Or it's kind of like that. Like who is in the scene at that moment, who is on screen, the area that you're in. You can sort of go X-ray, active time lore, and read about what is in that moment, lore-wise, that you might want to know.
Well, it's supposed to help you understand the lore at that time, isn't it? It's
Right.
meant to be a way, because there's so much lore in this game, it's meant to be a way for you to go, hang on, pause a moment, what's this, what's this, what's this, what's this? And you're supposed to be able to discover what's actually going on. I think if you spend too long doing all these little bits, I think that might be a concern in terms of how you follow the story. However, if you allow yourself to accept all of the information, I think it's going to unlock the full outline of the game.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's something which could be incredibly helpful to us as players.
I think all of us are going to be very grateful that it exists. I think the
Yes.
question is it going to be necessary in order to understand the base plot of the game? That's the concern, right? As long as it's
Yes.
something that fleshes out the world and fleshes out the lore and gives you more information than you technically need in the game to just really appreciate the main storyline, as long as it's only for that reason, awesome. Like I'm going to read up on this
Yes.
stuff and all that. I think the concern is when they announced active time lore, the way they announced it was even the people working on this game didn't understand what was going on. So we needed to add active time lore. And that was a weird way for them to announce this. Because when I hear that the people that are working on the game don't understand who the characters are or the relationships between kingdoms and this and that, when I hear that, like that probably means
It's
I'm not going to
worrying.
get it. I'm going to be honest with you. That means I'm not going to get it. To play devil's advocate, like with myself here, Game of Thrones had that problem as well at the beginning, and we all adapted,
Hmm.
right? We all started to love it. There was a lot of characters, or a lot of information being thrown at us at the beginning of Game of Thrones, and a lot of people were overwhelmed, and some people got so intimidated that they ducked out. But the people that stuck with it started to really appreciate that aspect of the show.
Well, let me ask you this though. With regards to Game of Thrones, did you understand all aspects on the initial watching, or did you potentially need to rewatch parts of it?
I did rewatch the first season. I remember that.
Yes. And this is my thing. I personally, I watched all of it and I found it to be a lot of information. And I mean, I'm pretty good when it comes to following information as it seems, but it was very much like there's information here and there's here and there's here and there's here. Where do I focus my attention? And all I hope is that even with all this lore coming in with 16, we're not sat there going, where do I look?
I
And
gotcha.
if you need an active time lore to help understand the game, I struggle to believe that it's going to be fully understandable on a first playthrough without using it.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Let's jump on over to gameplay. I think we're not going to spend too long on this because you guys, I know you probably haven't dived too much into this, and I know Shoop especially, this is not your genre of RPG here. Like this is true, as we're seeing on screen right now. This is true real-time action. This isn't even Final Fantasy VII action. Like Final Fantasy VII action is action hidden, behind a turn-based and all that. But this is like, no, you are truly on like a Devil May Cry journey here of action.
I actually was going to say I have in my notes game combat seems closer to Dark Souls style game than Final Fantasy.
Dark Souls.
From what I've looked, I would equate that to something like Elden Ring.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or a
Parrying,
cross,
dodging.
yeah, or a cross between Devil May Cry and Dark Souls. They were the two I had in mind.
Yeah.
I did not look at it and go, "That's Final Fantasy." I
To
looked
dive
at
in
it
a
and
little
went,
bit to the mechanics for you guys. So Clive can sort of channel the powers of the icons. I don't know if he's traveling the world and going to each mother crystal and like, oh, I'm going to absorb this one, I'm going to absorb that one. I don't know that. But you can see in the gameplay that L2 allows you to switch between 3 icons at a time. And each of those icons has 4 abilities you can use. With R2, you can cycle through their abilities. So you have a total of 12 abilities amongst these 3 icons that you can utilize. You've got parrying, you've got dodging, you've got obviously your normal face button hack and slashy type combat. There's a lot here. It's very very action based. But the good news, I think, especially for you, Shoop, if this seems to be overwhelming for you, I don't know if you know this, but they have items or accessories that you can equip in this game that make it so that you auto parry or make it so that all you have to do is press one button and it will do a combo for you as opposed to having to do each of the buttons individually.
I
They
don't think I'm gonna struggle that much with it, if I'm being honest with you.
Okay.
I was actually watching it earlier. Like I said, when I was dissecting the trailers, a lot of what I was dissecting was the combat. And from the little bit of playable scenes that I was watching, I think it's gonna be like playing The Witcher. And
I agree. Yeah.
I was a master at The Witcher.
And Kingdom
Like
Hearts. I think there's some Kingdom Hearts in there too.
mhm.
Kingdom Hearts is a lot of mashing, in all honesty, and
I
some
think this may be-
parrying and stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah, Kingdom Hearts is a lot more mashing. Whereas like The Witcher, there are certain instances like when you're fighting other human beings, you have to know how to block. You have to know how to parry. And
Mhm.
I did just fine with that. 7 Remake is a totally different story. I don't want to get into that right now.
Please
But
don't.
no, I won't. Don't worry. I'll spare you. but I loved The Witcher, and I did really, really, really well at it. And I feel like if it's anything like that type of real-time
It does
combat, I'll
look
be
like that. I
fine.
agree with you. It does seem like there's some similarities there. I say Kingdom Hearts because I noticed there's like literally certain mechanics in the game, certain moves that are stolen, straight up stolen from Kingdom Hearts. Like one where you can slow down time and you have like a bullet time like reticle where you can target your enemies and like shoot them. Like
That was in Kingdom Hearts 3,
yeah,
yeah.
literally taken exactly out of Kingdom Hearts 3. So
But that was also in Final Fantasy 15, if you think about like the warp strike type stuff.
yep.
So,
And
I had
another
fun,
thing I
and I
saw.
had, well, I was saying, and I had fun with 15's combat. I know not everybody enjoyed 15. I really did. I didn't love it as a Final Fantasy, but I loved it as a game. And I loved 15's combat, and I was very good at it.
I think they're taking like all that they've learned, right? Whether it be 15, Kingdom Hearts 3, and also 7 Remake, and they're taking all they learned and they're kind of merging that all together. Like I noticed that there's like a triple slash in this too, where Clive is like warping to multiple enemies and striking them, and it looked just like triple strike. Like really cool things like that, where it's like, oh yeah, they're like taking all these really cool elements of what they've already built with their other action RPG games, some more action than others, and they're making the ultimate real-time action Final Fantasy RPG. So I think it's going to be really great. I think especially for action fans, it's going to be really great. But I am also happy to see, as I brought up, maybe it's not for you, Shoop, but some of the accessibility options like story mode. And story mode is literally, I'm going to go in and it's going to auto-equip all of the easiest elements, all the easiest accessories, everything
Well,
that
that's
makes it so that I can zoom through this game and just enjoy the story. You know what I mean?
and I think that's the beautiful thing about Final Fantasy is at the end of the day, I don't know a single person, as much as there are some games that I enjoy the combat, like really enjoy the combat in certain installments. I don't know a single person who tells or recommends somebody else to play Final Fantasy by saying, "You got to play this game." Why? Because of the combat. No, we usually tell people because the story is amazing.
Yeah.
The
True.
story, the music, it's yeah.
Maybe we get the best of all of it now. We'll have to wait and see with 16. One last
Yeah.
question for you guys. I'm going to go to chat with this one as well. How long do we think this game is going to be?
The story or the entire game?
Let's start with mainline story. What do you think if you do a couple side quests here and there, but for the most part, you're just kind of going through the game? What
Well,
do
the
you think?
polls
A standard first playthrough.
the poll says perfect length for a Final Fantasy main story. Is this what we think a perfect length for any?
I'm asking you
Final
what you think this game is going to do.
This
as
is going to
far
be
as
for this poll is for 16. How long do we think the 16 story is going to be? The main story.
The one in chat, they can just in general, like a Final Fantasy main story. What do you think is perfect? I'm asking you guys what you think this game is going to be as far as length goes. How long do you think it's going to take to beat this game?
As far as Final Fantasy franchise games go, 30 to 40 minutes.
Hours.
Minutes.
Minutes, hours. Sorry, hours.
Look,
As far
speedrunner.
as far as streamers go, probably 60 hours. But I believe most first playthroughs will be 30 to 40 hours, maybe a touch over.
Yeah, and I think personally that's what I like. I don't like when Final Fantasy takes potentially 100 hours. You know what I mean? Like I don't like the idea of that. At least let's say I don't want Final Fantasy to be Persona 5 Royal. I don't want it to take me 150 hours to beat the main story.
And
I
streaming
think
it took what, 6,
210.
7 months?
Yeah, 210 hours streaming it.
Yeah.
Like I'd rather the mainline game take me like 30 to 40 hours, and then if I want to do everything, it takes me 60 to 70, right? I think that's kind of my perfect length. And from what I'm hearing about 16, this is actually a pretty linear blockbuster roller coaster they're taking you on. And it's intentionally supposed to be pretty fast paced. Unless you're going off and doing side quests and this and that, this is going to be like a 30 to 40 hour game is what we're
Main
hearing.
story for me personally, main story, not doing side quests, side trips, just going through the story. Maybe if you have to grind a little bit to continue into the main story, 35 hours.
Yeah.
Personal, and it just won in the poll perfectly through Final Fantasy main story. 30 to 40 hours.
We're all in agreement.
I think 20 hours is too short. 20 to 25 hours for a main story, I think, is only acceptable for the early installments. 1, 2, 3, things like that. 4 is a very short game.
I think if it followed what Remake did, you
Mhm.
were looking at. I mean, my 100% platinum completion of 7 Remake was 81 hours. That's a platinum copy. it was my initial gameplay was 34 hours on first playthrough, and that was doing as much as I thought was necessary, all the side quests.
I took my sweet time with 7 Remake because I just was appreciating the world so much. So I think my first playthrough took me like 51, but most people seem to finish 7 Remake in like the 35-hour range. I understand that that's kind of where it's supposed to fall. I was really soaking that game up when I played it, obviously for obvious reasons, since I'd waited so long for it, and it's my favorite game of all time, the original. So that's kind of where we're leaving things off. I think even though you guys can't play it at launch, would you say that you're very excited for 16?
Absolutely. I as much as I can't play it, I'm very excited to see the game and see the lore. I mean, excusing my language, I'm a slut for lore. So that to me means a lot more straight away than anything else. I love looking at fan theories. I like coming up with my own theories. I like adding additional thoughts and theories into things and try and understand things, regardless if I can play it.
Yeah,
I think a lot of us are like that. I mean, I'm the same way. Like, even though I'm not going to get to play it, I'm going to love watching Drew play it because I know, Drew, you're going to stream it on release. And I'll get to kind of, I hate this saying, just bear with me here. I will get to vicariously live through you. I hate when people say that, in all honesty, but I will be. I'm going to get to enjoy it visually until I can enjoy it interactively. So I'm still excited for it.
Yeah, as I said earlier, I wasn't that excited when it first was revealed, but I am definitely at like peak excitement now. We're in the month. I'm ready for it. It's been a long time since I played a new Final Fantasy mainline game, and I couldn't be more excited, honestly. What am I rubbing in? What, my love for 7? Sorry, guys, I love 7. And how long was Stranger of Paradise? I have no idea. Honestly, I have no idea. We're going to take actually a short commercial break because we're going to bring on our special guest for tonight, and we're going to get into a really exciting segment in the show. Thank you so much. Oh, never mind. Hold on a second.
We got Cherry as well.
Cherry coming in. Cherry coming in with the raid. That couldn't have been better timing.
Comes over again as well.
Perfect timing. We're gonna head out to a very short commercial break, and we're gonna bring on one of Cherry's favorite people, actually.
I heard he likes cherry flavored things.
I heard he has something to do with the fridge. Just ask him about it.
I heard he's a little stinky. Yeah. Thank you for the follow. Welcome in, Raiders. We really appreciate you being here. If you wouldn't mind, please stick around for just a few minutes so we can get set up in the background here for our next segments. You guys can enjoy some nice lo-fi Final Fantasy music in the meantime, and just give us a few minutes. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody, to Crystal Bearers, a Final Fantasy podcast, our very first episode. Really hope you guys are enjoying it. It's been a great night. We've gotten some follows that just came in from that wonderful raid with Cherry. Thank you so much for bringing over your friends. We'll be doing this show on the first Thursday of every month moving forward. And we have a lot of interactive segments. We did Question of the Month tonight. You guys can also take part in the Moogle mailbox. I see we have 10 entries in the Moogle mailbox, which we're going to get into a little bit later on. But first, we're going to welcome on a very, very special guest for our next segment. Everybody, a warm welcome to Jinray. Oh, I need to get your video.
I'm invisible. Hey, broadcast person.
Hello.
Say hi, Jin. Nobody can see you, but still say hi.
Hi, I'm OBS Broadcast. Nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna paste you right now.
This is actually my real form.
There you go.
Great.
There he is.
Welcome in, Jin. It's good to have you here. You're so big. You're so large.
I can.
No, you're fine.
Can we quote that? He's already called him Daddy as well.
My goodness.
It's so good to have you here. Welcome. How was your day? You had a good stream today. How was Final Fantasy 13?
My day is really good. We did like a 9-hour FF13 stream. It was a lot of fun, and honestly, it was one of the best streams I've had in the past couple of months. So it was a good time. It was a good time for sure. I'm really really enjoying 13 as well.
So you've been loving it, haven't you?
Oh yeah, I understand why 13 gets the bad rep it gets, but honestly, I'm really really enjoying it. So I can't wait to play even more in 10-2. And
did your community lower your expectations for 13?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Was it that way with 8 as well? Because I know 8's actually in your top 3.
8's in my top 3, and the funny thing is, I bring this story up all the time, but my very first ever stream of 8, I had multiple people come into my first stream and just tell me straight up, like, Jin, you should just skip this game. It's not worth playing. Like, it's okay. You don't need to play this one. I had multiple people that first stream come in to tell me that, and you know what? I'm glad I stuck it through and I played the entire game, and now it's one of my favorite ones. So that just goes to show, like, you can't listen to everyone. Everyone has their own opinions on things, and yeah, just form your own opinion. And,
it's so unfortunate that they told you that in your first stream of it, though. Like, it's almost kind of like, if you don't want to play it, then don't play it, but don't tell somebody else who's going through all the Final Fantasy games, just skip this one. Like, let them experience it.
I mean, they were probably like joking lightheartedness, but you never know. Like,
right?
I don't know.
I mean,
well, all that matters is you enjoyed it. You loved 8.
Right. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
8's the only one that I ever.
3.
Yeah.
Well, we're very happy to have you here, Jen. Thank you so much for joining us. For what will be a segment we have every episode of Crystal Bears, one that I'm really, really excited about. You guys, it is time. We're going to play some Final Fantasy Jeopardy! Thank you. We got Shoop, we got Easily, and of course, as I was saying, I'm going to have to get him over here as well. I just realized I need to... Your OBS guide, I'm going to get you real quick. Hold on one second. I'm going to paste you in.
This is a great new look for you, Jen. Looks great.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm
There you
going to go on stream next time, and I'm just going to be that.
So, did you guys get the loaded up play factal on the side? I've got 2 out of 3 teams. So that probably means that we're missing one person.
Where was I supposed to have something?
The link's in our Discord. Shoot.
Oh, of course. Shoot.
Hold on, I got it. Because I just ended up opening a separate browser. Oh, I see it. Here.
Please nobody take that code before Shoop does.
I got it.
All right.
Hold on, let me.
Who
put
are
myself
you?
in now.
If you're not a character, I want you to leave and rejoin.
It says no team slot.
Yep, somebody took it. All right. Who's Moogle and who's the Tonberry?
I am the Tonberry.
And Jin, are you the Moogle?
I'm supposed to be a penguin.
Okay, then somebody took the Moogle. I'm going to delete the Moogle. Shoop, are you ready to jump in once I delete the Moogle?
Yes.
All right, jump in now. Are you a Cactar?
I am a Cactar.
All right, we're good. All right, you guys, let's begin. Our categories tonight, we have quote, unquote. Sounds exactly what I said. I'm going to give you guys a quote from a Final Fantasy game. Just tell me the character. Simple as that.
We tell you the character, not the game it's from.
Tell us. Well, I think everybody's going to know the game once you know the character. But tell me the character. Tell me the character that said that quote. We're going to have unfinished melody. I'm going to give you some lyrics from a song in Final Fantasy, one that obviously has lyrics. You're going to have to finish those lyrics.
Oh, God.
It's usually just one line. I'm going to give you several lines. You got to finish off with the final line in that verse. All right? We've got I Choose You. This is a category focused around summons, eidolons, aeons, all that good stuff. Monsters, just what it sounds like. We're going to have a category all focused around all the great Final Fantasy monsters of the series. And finally, NPC, yeah, you know me. Random NPCs.
I love it.
Of the Final Fantasy series. Now, we have very special guest Jinray on today, so I think we're gonna let Jin control the board from the start here.
Oh gosh.
Jin, go ahead.
Let's see. Can I get chat's help or do I have to pick? I'm just kidding. Okay.
Oh, that's another. Actually, now that you bring that up, do not look at chat. Any of you, you're not allowed to look at chat.
Dang it. Okay. I am ignoring. You're telling me to ignore chat. Wow.
Yes, Jin.
I am. I'm telling you to ignore chat.
This is so different. Let's do the I Choose You for 100.
Okay.
Let's start easy.
This summon GF Eidolon Aeon was inspired by Ogami Ito, protagonist of the manga Lone Wolf and Cub. Tonberry, I think that's easily.
Fenrir.
No.
Really quick, I have a major delay on my end. I couldn't even buzz in until just.
That is incorrect.
God, that was so loud.
That was loud. Rip. Anybody else want to take a guess? No,
I'm
nobody's taking a guess on this
so
one. All right.
loud. I'm not either.
It is actually Yojimbo, you guys. Come on, he's got the pup.
Yeah.
He's got the
That is
pup and
true.
everything.
That should have
That
been
is true.
obvious. Yeah.
Should have been
That
obvious, you guys. Come on now. Come on now.
Yeah, who's Yojimbo, Kyan? Okay, yeah, the answer is just now popping up on my end.
Wow. That's unfortunate for you.
I'm scared. I have like a major delay on my.
Just buzz
on
no
my
matter what.
browser.
Don't even
Shoot,
listen
I'll
for the
lose
question.
points. Don't
No,
worry,
the
don't worry.
buzz doesn't even. I'm saying the buzz doesn't even light up pink to let me buzz until like
There is,
long
I think,
after
a
you
3-second delay. No matter what, everybody has a 3-second delay before you can
Okay.
buzz in. If I remember
Okay.
right. Okay.
Okay.
Nobody got that, so that means Jin, you were still in control.
Let's do unfinished melody for 100.
Estuans interius ira vehementi. Estuans interius ira vehementi.
I don't know the actual words. I know the parody.
Come on, you guys. You're killing me. You're honestly killing me right now. This hurts me.
I know this song, but I don't know the actual Latin. I know the parody.
Estuans interius ira vehementi. Come on.
Eat a pear, lemon D. Like, I don't know the actual words.
It's the words.
Oh, we were supposed to name the title? I thought we were supposed to finish the song. I thought you wanted us to sing
Oh
it.
wait, I thought that too. Wait.
Yeah.
What?
Oh.
We all knew the name of the song.
We all
Well, either
know the name
way,
of the song.
the next line is Sephiroth, you guys.
Wow.
So I was thinking about saying Sephiroth, but I didn't know if that would count.
I thought he wanted us to sing in Latin. I'm like, okay, so we are naming
No,
the
I don't want you to
song.
sing in Latin. Just in that case, you could have just said Sephiroth. But no, One Winged Angel is fine too. One Winged Angel. You can name the song. That's fine. Name the song.
Okay.
Name the song. That's fine. Well, nobody got that anyway. Jen, you're still in control.
We're staying at 0, minus 100, and 0 this whole game, by the way.
Off to a great start, you guys. Off to a great start.
Okay. Monsters for 300.
Ooh, going deep.
Spicy.
Although they were called pugs in Final Fantasy VI, they have been known as this in pretty much every Final Fantasy since. Known as pugs in Final Fantasy VI. Megan knows it. Jen, how does that make you feel?
Angry.
I haven't played 6, I couldn't say.
I have blocked 6 out of my memory so much.
Jen hates 6.
This is supposed to be the show of Final Fantasy experts. Oh, wow. There we go. Tomberry, you guys. Tomberries used to be called pugs.
They were called pugs.
Yep.
I've only ever known them as Tomberries. That's
Same.
Well, let's say in 6 they were called pugs.
Easily, you literally are a Tonberry. What?
I know. This is. I don't know my own culture.
Guess what, Jen? You're still in control.
This is so bad.
We just don't know the answers.
Let's do quote unquote for 200.
Oh, what an easy life it must be just to follow orders.
I know this. I know this. I know this. Fuck, I know this.
You guys got 10 seconds to buzz in. And I thought I made this easy. All right. You guys are going to be really disappointed in yourselves,
It's
especially you,
Noah.
Shoop.
I know this
No,
one.
for Noah,
It's for
yeah.
Noah.
Yeah.
I knew it was from 8. I knew it was from 8, but I didn't know which character.
Jen, where do you want to go?
Let's go. Okay, let's do the melody one again for 200.
All right, you can just
Try this one
name
again.
the song, you guys, all right? For
Okay.
200, just name the song. Whenever said my words, wishing they would be heard. Cactar.
Eyes on me.
Yes.
Wow,
Finally.
What's that?
That
Why,
was so loud.
Somebody's in the positive.
why did it buzz at us?
And shoot, it was a ding. It's exciting. You
It was a
got
ding,
right.
but then
and
I
a
heard the buzz too. The
Oh, I didn't hear a buzz.
It's both.
both.
Shoop, you have taken control. Jin's finally free.
I'm free.
NPC, yeah, you know me for 100.
Name the NPC.
Stein.
Easily.
It's Dine from Final
It is
Fantasy VII.
Dine. That is correct from Final Fantasy VII.
Why does it keep buzzing at us? It dings and buzzes.
All right, you need to take it easy. Easily, you're in control.
I choose you for 300.
Anima is one of the most powerful Aeons in Final Fantasy X. The creature originates from this religion. Shoop.
Roman Catholicism.
That is correct.
Anima Sola.
Anima Sola. That is correct.
That's nice.
You now have 500 gil, and you're back in control.
I don't like being in control, Jen. You didn't like this either, did you?
It was a good time.
Once again, more proof that Jin is not a daddy.
Quote unquote for 100.
Nailed it. I know. Thank you. Moving on. Easily?
Titus.
No. That is not right.
It's not from 10.
Two, one.
I know where.
That is actually Cloud Strife
Yeah.
in Final Fantasy
soon as
VII
he gets
Remake.
his
Don't say
dress.
where, though. Don't say where. Jin hasn't played it yet.
I was gonna say Kyan's gonna give me crap now because he's been wanting me to play that for so long.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, who was in control?
Yeah,
Was it
I
Shoop?
knew it. Here it is.
Yeah, right.
I think I was.
You got Shoop.
Unfinished Melody 300.
Name the song. In my dearest memories, I see you reaching out to me. Shoop.
Melodies of Life, Final Fantasy 9.
That is right. 800 gil for Shoop. She's taking a big lead here, you guys. Shoop, go ahead. You're still in control.
I'm staying with this category. It's the only thing I can answer. Unfinished Melody 400.
I acted so distant then. Turned my back as you walked away, but love was listening. Shoop.
Final Fantasy 10 2, 1,000 words.
That is right.
Jin, don't fast blink at me. I saw that.
You guys have you guys will have your chance to catch up. It's gonna be
I
okay.
said 10 2, and I just saw Jin going like.
Mhm.
This is Shoop's strong category. Go ahead, Shoop. You want 500?
Unfinished Melody 500, yeah.
Shine bright once more. Guide me to you. Smile bright once more. This time I will never let you go.
Just don't know the lyrics.
Shine bright like a diamond.
That's what I thought.
What is this one? Like what?
Via's
Nobody?
having like an aneurysm there.
Oh, I'm sure she is. Via's obsessed with Final
It's probably
Fantasy
another
music.
remake one.
It's got to be something modern. It's not.
It's probably another remake.
You're right. It is Hollow. The only vocal theme. Well, I shouldn't say that, but it's the finale. It's the ending theme to 7 Remake.
Mhm.
Oh, that's why.
I would try to sing it, but that guy like belts it, and I can't even
Oh,
try.
come on, Drew.
No, I'm not. I'm not
Sure you'd
embarrassing
sing.
myself. Guys, Shoop, you're up.
Quote unquote 300.
Once upon a time, there was a man. There was a man who didn't know where he came from. Shoop.
Zidane.
That is right. That is a name. Ged, you're still in control.
Quote unquote 400.
Even the moon tired of waiting around for your ass.
Wait.
Jin. Jin, don't do this.
Barrett?
It's a good attempt. It's a good attempt. No.
Barrett's the only one that I know that cusses like that. That's why I was like, I thought Barrett too.
Oh,
There's
I know.
only one
I know.
other
I know
can
who it
think
is.
of.
I know who it is.
Anybody? Anybody? Nope.
Can I answer again?
I fucking
Sid
knew it as well.
Highwind.
I should have guessed.
You were like you knew it was one of them. It's like the two cursing characters.
They're
of
the
Final
only
Fantasy
two I
VII.
know.
Yeah. Shoop, you want to do 500?
Yeah, close it out.
Okay. I am calm about most things.
I know this, but I don't know this.
I don't want to go more into negative, so I'm hurting over here.
Anybody?
I know this, I feel like.
Well, you got 5 seconds. It is Rin. from Final Fantasy X.
Wow.
She didn't know it. Narrator, she didn't know it. All right, Shoop, where are you going next?
Monsters for 100.
This large cat-like creature can be found in the Comlands of Final Fantasy X. Shoop.
Coral.
That is right. Go ahead.
200. Monsters.
This monster is first fought as a boss in Clara, but you may encounter it again later if you take a wrong turn in Kuja's Desert Palace. Easily.
Antlion.
That is right. You're back in the positive and you take control. Go ahead.
Monsters 500.
500. These slimy silver-skinned creatures of Final Fantasy VIII can only be found underneath Balamb Garden. Go ahead, Easily.
Boil.
That is right.
I remember him fighting them in the Requiem mod, and he wanted to rage quit. If you didn't get that right, I'd be shocked.
Monsters 400.
These kind creature will ask you trivia questions in random farce of Final Fantasy IX. Easily.
Ragtime Mouse.
That is right. Easily making a little bit of a comeback here. Jin just resting there on the side.
I'm just trying to get out of the negative.
NPC 500.
NPC, yeah, you know me for 500.
It's Hitler.
Nobody's gonna know this one.
I know which one it's from as well.
That's how I say it too, honestly.
It is not Hitler.
It's I know what game it's from. I remember seeing the character.
When I chose this one, I was like, nobody's gonna get this, aren't I? It's Instructor Aki. You literally don't even have to encounter him in Final Fantasy VIII.
You don't, but he's from
Yeah.
I didn't mean to say that out loud.
She said the quiet part out loud. Easily, what's up?
NPC 400.
Hot mama. Sorry.
Who is it? Who is it? NPC? Yeah, you know me.
I don't
Not,
know that one.
it's not Hitler.
Now's your chance, Jin. Now's your chance.
Is this a 12 character?
I think Shoop. I think Shoop. You should
Does
know
that
this
look
one,
like a
Shoop,
12 character to you?
I don't know.
I'm sure that's a 10-2 character.
That is not a 10-2 character.
That's not a 10-2 character.
No.
No. No idea who she is. She's
guys-
not from
you
any of
guys
the
hurt
games
me.
that I played.
Deeply. It's Chocolina from Final Fantasy 13.
Jin!
You're playing
What?
it right now, dude. You're playing it right now.
Have I even met that character?
You're on Grand Pulse, I would think so. Aren't you on
know.
Grand Pulse?
Maybe.
I've only played through 13 once. That was years ago.
Easily, what do you want to do?
300.
Shoop.
Maroda.
Yep. Maroda. You guys all right?
It keeps buzzing at us. Do you not hear that?
I do hear it. I don't know why it's buzzing though.
It just keeps telling us that we're wrong as soon as we
Yeah,
buzz
I'm not
in.
sure why. I hear the ding and the buzz at the same time. All right, what's next?
To finish out NPC, yeah, you know me.
Easily, or no, sorry, not easy. Shoop.
I haven't pressed because she already has, I think.
Sailor Aaron.
That is
Yeah.
right. It is Aaron.
As soon as I heard, I was like, my mouse isn't there.
I choose you for 200.
All right. There's an old legend in this region about a dragon god and his divine protection. I think it may be true. I mean, look at this place. We're surrounded by mountains in the middle of nowhere, and the water here never runs out. It is to be the work of a dragon god. Adventurer in Deguero.
What's the category name again?
Easily.
Wait, are we naming Leviathan it?
Yes, that is right.
Yeah. I was like, what are we
Oh, that's why I was like, you don't get Leviathan from Deguero, you get him from the Aoife tree. That's why I was like, what?
It's
Yeah, but they were talking about Leviathan. I was like,
Yeah.
am I
come on.
guessing the right thing here?
Yep, you got it. You're good.
400, please.
Name the Aeon summon, whatever. Hades, Greek ruler of the underworld, made his first appearance in this Final Fantasy. Actually, name that. Which Final Fantasy?
Was it
Easily?
Final Fantasy 7?
That is right. It is 7.
It was 7. Just the buzz.
There's the buzz. I don't know what the buzz is all about. With this 500 gil, Jin, you can become positive. Easily, you can tie it up. Jin.
I really, really hope it's not a Final Fantasy VI.
Let him cook,
question.
you guys. Let him cook.
Let him cook.
Here we go. I choose you for 500. Eden, Final Fantasy VIII's ultimate summon can be drawn from this monster in this location. Before I give it to Easily, Jin, do you know this?
See, I didn't do this part in 8, but I watched Cherry do it, and I have no idea what the heck the monster's name was.
Easily, what is it?
It's from Ultimate Weapon in the
right.
sea laboratory research
That is
center.
correct. Ultimate Weapon in the Deep Sea Research Center. You got it. It is a tie game between Easily and Shoop.
I'm gonna catch up.
With my negatives, let's go.
Negative 400. We do have the final factal. I don't think you can come back. I don't think math works that way. But the category is Final Fantasy X Overdrives. That you might know something about that.
Oh, for God's sake.
Give me 1 second.
Oh,
God.
Hold on. My it's not showing me the category or anything, and I think my browser froze.
Oh God, no.
So can I write down my wager and show it on screen?
Yes, I will allow it.
Because I'm serious. My whole browser just froze. I can't move it. I can't minimize it. Nothing.
I
Hold on, let me
don't
find a
know
pen.
that I can move forward without you doing it though.
Oh, like I have to lock in my answer.
I can click skip wagers. I see that option.
Wait. Hold on. Nope. It's still
What if you
locked up.
refresh? Will it work then?
No, the whole browser is locked up.
It's all
Edge
9, 6, and remake questions. What are you talking about, Jen? There was 7 in there. We're literally talking about Final Fantasy X Overdrives right now. There was plenty of 8. Literally, the last question that we brought up was Final Fantasy VIII. And let's not forget Instructor Aki from Final Fantasy VIII either. Please.
Am I able to close out and try and rejoin?
I don't think so. I think everybody's going to have to write down their wager. And I'm going to have to hit skip wagers. Everybody?
For fun times, can we give Jin some positive points? Since we're all just writing down wagers anyway.
Is that even possible? My ears.
I'm gonna give Jin 1,000.
I'm not even hearing the buzzing, but I can hear it on y'all's end, which means I know it's loud.
1,000 gil to Jin, just so he has money to play with. You're welcome. You can call me Daddy now.
Yeah, Does it say that I've been kicked out of the game or anything? Because I can't.
No, it actually doesn't say that you've been kicked out. Everybody just says waiting.
Let me Control Alt and delete this. No, I don't want to do that because then what if it does? Because I have Chrome with Guest Star and Edge with all this other stuff.
The dinging is so loud. It really is. I'm gonna have to look into the options before the next stream and see if we can lower down the volume of the buzzes and the dings.
I can't hear anything from the final Factal or whatever from the Factal website, so I could just hear the buzzing in Easily and Jin's ears, and it was loud.
You're welcome.
But this is actually pretty exciting. It's you each have 2,100 gil. Shoot Easily. Jin, we've given you 1,000 to play with. You can wager as much of that as you want on this final Factal. The category is Final Fantasy X Overdrives.
All right, I wrote down my wager.
Mine's on. I've got it on my phone on my notepad, but I'll show you.
Okay.
So I only unlocked like 2 overdrives.
Does this encompass not just the name of the overdrives, but also the overdrive modes, etc.?
It's let's just say character overdrives.
Okay.
All right, I've written down my wager, hands free, so I can't change it.
Okay. Are we ready then?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm gonna skip wagers. I think.
Do I have to write down the answer then?
Yes. You guys are gonna have to write down the answer on your phone or on paper and show it.
Okay.
Maybe. I don't know if it's gonna let you put it in. Maybe it'll let you put it in on the website. This overdrive
It's letting me type.
This overdrive belonging to Seymour Guado can only be seen once in the game when battling with him against Sinspawn Gui.
I can type it, but I can't submit it.
The overdrive will easily take down the boss.
I wrote it down. I can type it, but it won't let me hit submit answer for whatever
You have
reason.
60 seconds. This overdrive belonging to Seymour Guado can only be seen once in the game when battling with him against Sinspawn Gui.
I genuinely don't remember. Oh my god.
I'm really pissed that I can't hit submit answer. I even have it typed in.
Via.
This one is not easy. Via goes, ooh, easy. I honestly, in all honesty, I only saw this overdrive in my most recent playthrough of it, and I've been playing this game for 20 years. And it's only because like my party was always OP.
I thought I'd have some fun with you guys. I figured by making the category Final Fantasy X Overdrive, you guys like, oh, I can do that. And then I was like, no, how about that?
The problem is I haven't seen this since my second playthrough of 10, which was like 8 years ago.
He's got 6 seconds to write down your answer.
I haven't wrote a thing.
Uh-oh. The bait and switch.
The bait and switch, yeah.
All right. Wait, I can see Jin's answer.
I genuinely don't remember the name.
Blitzball.
I can see Jin's answer. I'm excited. Blitzball Kid Strike.
Blitzball Kid Strike.
I
that is
genuinely
incorrect.
don't remember.
That is incorrect. Easily. You have a blank, don't you? You don't have anything.
Yeah, I couldn't remember at all.
Shoop.
I wagered 2,099.
Requiem, and she is correct. She wagered almost all of it.
Everything but $1. Requiem.
Requiem is correct. Way to go, Shoop. I'm impressed. I'm pretty impressed right now.
I haven't seen that in so long.
I don't think it's gonna say it's a tie, but the actual winner,
Shoop won.
The actual winner is Shoop.
I won an entire Final Fantasy X board
with 4199.
Thank
Gil.
you.
What did you wager? Out of curiosity, Jin? Not Jin. Actually, both of you. What did you guys wager?
1,000.
Jin wagered it all and easily.
All in.
You went all in, so easily.
You're either gonna win or you're gonna lose in that one question. So.
Easily would have won if he got it right.
I was gonna wager all of it, and then I crossed it out, and I was like, no, I'm gonna save $1 just in case I like make myself look dumb. At least I go out and pause like positive.
Mm-hmm. That was fun, you guys. That was a lot of fun. Thank you so much for being a part of it. Did I make it too difficult? I'm sorry.
No, absolutely not.
No.
I don't know why it's showing like it's a tie. Like the whole thing is where I can't close out of this entire battle. We'll worry about it later, I guess.
So, Jin, special guest Jin, you are welcome to stay with us. We have one more segment. We're probably going to go for about another 30 minutes, or you can head out. It's totally up to you.
No, I'll stay.
You want to stick around? Thank you. We're honored to have you here.
All
right.
Jin, I do have a question for you real quick.
I have all the answers.
If we had done a Final Fantasy Jeopardy board, which Final Fantasies do you think you would have known the most trivia about? Like, where would you think, where would you have exceeded?
I think 7 and 10. Mostly, yeah. And well, this just also goes to show that this is why I need to replay a lot of these games, because I mean one playthrough is just not enough to know everything, you know what I mean? So but yeah, 7, like my favorite ones I do want to replay eventually, which is 7, 10, and 8 at some point. And I'm gonna be honest, like all the 9 questions I didn't stand a chance. There was no way I was gonna get any of those.
There were a lot of 9 heavy questions on the board, I noticed.
You will also realize as well, like
there was a lot of 9, yeah.
Shoop and I have very different strengths in terms of where our knowledge lies. Shoop focuses a lot more on dialogue than I do, and a lot more into characters. I focus a lot more into monsters and what their weaknesses might be, because I've always been looking to try and find little ways to get stronger, whereas I know Shoop likes to be a lot more emotionally attached in the games than I do.
I like to cry. This is true.
Yes.
All right. You know what? I've got it. I'm sorry. I've got to look now and see if you guys are right about this. I feel like it was pretty mixed.
With some of the
it was a lot of 9.
Was there a lot of 9?
Yeah.
A lot of 9. There was a lot of 9.
Okay, so I'm going to look right now. Hold on. Preview all of
There
the
was
answers.
a Zidane. There was Melodies of Life. There was, I'm just thinking of the questions that I got.
All right, so the first one in 7 remake. What an easy life it might be. That's Renoa. That's 8. Once Upon a Time. That's 9. Even the Moon Tire for Ass. That's 7. So you get 2 7, 1 8, 1 9. I am calm about most things. That's 10. So far we actually have more 7 than 9. Then we got Shine Bright Once More, that's 7.
Shine bright.
We got I Acted So
shine
Distant Then, Turn My Back As You Walked Away, that's 10 too. We got In My Dearest Memories, that's 9. Whenever I Said My Words Wishing They Would Be Heard, that's 8.
There was at least one.
Zentarius, that's 7. So still, by far, actually, 9 is not. I'd say 7 and 10.
It was in the monsters and NPCs. I think that's where 9.
This summon
There was
Eidolon,
2.
we got the Yojimbo one, that's 10. We got the Daguerre one, that's 9. Then we got 10 for Anima, another one from 10. Hades being in 7, that's from 7. Eden from Final Fantasy 8. Slimy Creatures, Oil Boils, that's 8. Kind Creature, Ask You Trivia Questions, that's Ragdoll Mouse, that's 9.
Erectile?
Whatever. Pugs from Final Fantasy
Erectile
6, being Tomberries, so that's really the outlier. That was Final Fantasy 6. Monster First Fought at Clara, that was the Antlion, that's 9. Large Cali Creature in the Calmlands, that's 10. You guys are wrong. There wasn't
I
more
think
9.
from the sounds of it, it sounded more like 8 than any of them.
There's 8,
when you read
10,
them out.
and 7, more than 9 actually.
I think it was just because each category had at least one question from 9. I think there were 2 from 9 in the monsters category. 2? Was it 2?
Yeah, there was Antlion and Ragtime.
I don't know, but you
Antlion
have
and Ragtime, yeah.
Jin here. Jin, you've only played 9 once, right?
I've only played every Final
Seems
Fantasy
like
one.
a skill
Once,
issue to
right.
me.
But I'm saying you have, and I think this is also something to note that like Jin has only gone through these games once,
Yeah.
right?
The only outliers were 6 and 13, just to make it clear.
Yeah.
There was one from 6, one from 13, but I told Jin even before the show tonight that I
It was a
did
golden era.
prioritize the golden era of 7 through 10 because I knew that you would have a better chance
Yeah.
with 7 through 10.
No, I
Right.
think it was a well done board. I mean,
Mm.
each of us had our own points. Jin, replay the games.
I know. I'm trying. I'm just trying to get through them all at least once first, and then I'll go back.
If anything, I think you'll enjoy because going through it with a first playthrough, you're really there for the story, right?
Right.
You're there to learn these games, the mechanics of them, but you're really there for the story. I think
Yeah.
going through them the second time, you get to pick up on things that were surprises to you in the story, but
Yeah.
you can also explore a lot more of the side content. Like
Yeah.
I know you didn't play Chocobo Hot and Cold at all.
No.
And
There's a
I
lot.
think there's a lot of like fun things that you would enjoy that isn't necessarily, it doesn't require too much brain power. It's just fun.
Right.
Yeah. It's hard when you're playing them on stream for the first time.
Right, and the amount of chatting I do, and just how much I'm distracted on stream 24/7 is just. And then like you got to keep in mind, like I've played all of these games. I've like 15 different Final Fantasy games in a year's time.
Yeah.
A lot of that information kind of gets jumbled together.
Well, now you get to
so
take it easy. We're gonna take a step
Right.
back. We're gonna have a nice, relaxing, cozy segment with you. And here, the final segment of the night. We can't hear you, Shoop, now. Like, yep. Okay. I don't know what you're telling me to do, but
She's
you
gonna
want me
type.
to call me? what
Is
is
she gonna
happening?
type or text you?
Is she texting me? Call me, reach me when you want to beat me?
Type in stream. Calling
Yeah,
you.
she's calling me. She's calling me. Hi. Her entire PC just locked up. But we can still see your camera. That's weird. Okay, so you're gonna do the rest of the show on speakerphone? Let's do it.
Okay, fine.
All right. I don't know if they're gonna be able to hear you, but I'm gonna put you
If it's
right down next to it.
Near the
Maybe
microphone.
they'll be able to
you
hear you.
might,
My mic keeps doing this thing where it's turning on and off on its own, which now it's not even turning itself back on. And my entire PC is locked up because of Jeopardy. Like, I can't exit out of Chrome, I can't exit out of Edge, I can't type. I don't want to control alt delete everything or restart my PC. I could restart my PC and you can bring me back on if you want.
That's up to you.
Do you guys mind waiting 5 minutes for me?
Or we could just keep
No.
going. We got a lot
We
we got 11 Moogle mailbox questions. You can just, jump in after the first or second one.
Y'all do that. I'm going to restart my PC, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Well,
Hi, Shoop.
spoiler alert, that's what we're doing. We're jumping in to the Moogle mailbox. You guys have given us 11 responses, and you can keep going if you guys want. We're gonna get through as many as we can. It depends on how long they are, of course.
Can we rule it down to 10? Because I know there's one talking about a hot tub.
No, we're definitely answering that one. Deal with it.
Okay.
All right, let's see. Let me get I'm gonna preview the questions first. I doubt you guys did anything nefarious, but just in case, I'm just gonna.
I wouldn't doubt that.
Okay, here we go. All right, our first question here. Let's see.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, actually, we can.
What did you do?
Thank God. I hit Control Alt Delete and it brought up my task manager, and then all of a sudden I could do everything else again just fine. I'm
Okay.
exiting out of this final Factal. No, I can't do anything.
Yeah, I've
with
already
that. Never
closed
mind.
mine.
Let's play Factal. Break your PC.
Yeah, it won't let me. I can't do anything with Edge. The only thing I can touch right now is Chrome. But
That's
it's
okay.
fine. I'm here now.
We've got guest star still, so
Our first question, you guys, a little bit long. I can't fit it all on screen actually. So let me pull up the question list. It is let's see. Question for all of you. If given the opportunity to make your own Final Fantasy storyline, what would the base be? I.e., what would the main character be? What would the sources of the struggle be, etc.? This is a loaded question. This is a loaded question.
can we give that just to one and have it so it's not going to be a 25-minute question? Because that'll be a really long question.
That's a big question.
Yeah, that is a big one.
So can we give that to Jin? Because Jin's playing through his Final Fantasies, and Jin's extra, and I think that'd be a really good question for him to be able to discuss.
What would I do? So the question
If
was,
you were given an opportunity to make your own Final Fantasy storyline, like what kind of direction would you go in? What do you vibe with when it comes to a Final Fantasy storyline?
Given your
I vibe
experience so far.
I vibe with stories that rely like heavily on emotions and can like make me cry and make me feel things, and also by the end of the game will make me question literally the entire game and what it was about. That's part of the reason why I love 7 so much, is because of the atmosphere it gave me, the way the music melded into the story of the game. And then obviously I don't know how can we talk spoilers here? I don't know like how much I can talk about.
I think we can talk spoilers. It's a Final Fantasy podcast.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. And obviously like the live stream scene at the end, just I don't know, and also 8 as well. Like 8 and 7 are probably tied for like my favorite stories as far as the Final Fantasy goes. But like I said, it's like by the time I beat 8, and then my chat was telling me all this other stuff that I apparently had missed. Like I literally sat in a voice call with friends for multiple hours with them explaining to me all this stuff I didn't even realize with the story of 8. And then the more I learned about it, the more I appreciated 8. It's part of the reason why I just love 8 so much. And I feel like anyone that knows or tries to learn the lore of 8, I don't see why you could hate the game. Yeah, the gameplay is weird at times, but once you get used to it, you get used to it. But I guess the question was like, what something brand new that I would do?
It sounds to me like you like convoluted is the wrong word, but it sounds like you like a story that does have lots of twists and turns, makes you think, yeah. But you want to also, you don't want that to be at a sacrifice for characters. You want characters that you connect with, that you feel emotionally connected to.
Which is why I love 13 so much, is because I feel like
so a cross between.
Oh yeah, if you're connecting with the characters in 13, that's
like
cool.
I'll be honest, like 13 and 9, okay, and then that's one of 9's strongest points for me is the cast of characters. It has probably it used to be my favorite cast of characters. 13 is contending with that right now for me. But yes, a strong cast is definitely up there for me.
That's cool. That's very cool.
And it's funny because I love 7 so much, but honestly, it has one of the, and I dare say this, I'm all about controversial takes, but 7 had one of the weakest casts for me, but it's still my favorite one.
That's interesting. So, yeah.
Right.
Usually people like that, like 7. That's why they like it. It's because of the cast. That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, you haven't played Remake yet, have you, Jen?
I have not played Remake yet, but I've heard
that's
that Remake,
where the characters come to life.
Yeah, they really do.
I hear that Remake really fleshes out the characters a lot better.
Which was needed because from what I understand, they didn't have the resources or even the time when they made the original, to give them as much depth as they wanted to.
Well, separating it into 3 parts helps as well. You really dive in, right? Our next question, this one I'm going to give to easily for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I just skipped it, but I'll just read it out loud. What speed run are you most looking forward to?
7. By a long way. 7 was the first speedrun game out of all the Final Fantasy franchise that I took an interest in. I watched Neon Genesis, I watched Caleb Hart, I watched Zeal, I watched Monetary Dragon, all of these top runners who made the game so different to watch. Watching the calm skips, learning those skips are what really it's nerve-wracking to me, and it's something I'm excited to learn, because if I do them well, they are amazing. If I do them poorly, that ruins the run. But I mean, if I hadn't, it would have been 9, because 9 has been a magical journey for me. But 7 by far is what I'm looking forward to the most.
I know there's a very big community surrounding that specific speed run, so that could be big for you. I'm excited for you. Next up, Sparky Petunia asked, were you all introduced to Final Fantasy originally through Nintendo or PlayStation? And do you feel that your original experience on that console affected your love of the games?
Jin's answer is going to be Steam.
Yeah, Jin's PC.
Hold on though, right? Hold on though. Keep in mind, remember, I played Kingdom Hearts. I grew up with Kingdom Hearts.
Right.
Sorry, PS4.
And technically, that's PS2,
PS2,
which had the Final Fantasy characters in it. So,
yeah.
But my first actual Final Fantasy game was through Steam, which is why I was laughing.
Go ahead, Shoop.
I was introduced to it through PlayStation.
Me too.
PlayStation, PS1.
And I do think that affected me in a major way. I think that's part of why I became so in love with PlayStation as a console, honestly, is because all of my favorite stuff was there. Metal Gear Solid, actually even Chrono went there, right? You had Chrono Cross that went there, Final Fantasy, and then even with the PS2, then it was Kingdom Hearts. Like, it just, became synonymous with the franchises that I loved so much. So I do think it affected me in that way. And I think in general, when you play these games has such an impact on your love for them. I know, Jin, like, you're doing it now and you still love many of them, right? But the reason, and they've done statistical analysis on this at this point, the reason that 7 is so loved is because it was the first Final Fantasy for such a large amount of people. And for the people that voted that 7 was their first, they said it was their favorite. But then if you go to other ones, like people that say 9 was their first, it didn't have that same mark up based on it being the first played. So it was interesting to see some of the analysis there.
I think it's also because 7 was the first 3D.
It was, yes.
I think that has a massive difference on how you feel about the characters and the gameplay.
There's a generational aspect to it as well, because you notice that the next big tick up in love for first played was 10. Because a lot of people first played 10 on PS2 because PS2 was their first console, just like if PS1 was their first console, Final Fantasy VII was their favorite and their first. So there is sort of like this generational divide as well that happens. The nostalgia bias, as Ado says it, yeah, it's there. It's 100% there.
I had a very defiant nature about me, and when, like I said, 8 was my first, 9 was my second, but 9 was my favorite, and then followed by 10. I didn't play 7 until the shutdown of like COVID 2020 because everybody was like, oh, Final Fantasy 7, Final Fantasy 7. And I'm like, no, 9. I was that person that I was like, I don't want to play 7 because I feel like anytime I bring up Final Fantasy to someone, it's Final Fantasy 7. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, but there are others. And then I didn't play 7 all the way through by myself. I played it with my ex. So I also don't have a great memory of it.
Yeah, you still haven't fully played it, have you? Not on your own.
No.
Jin, I can see that you're wanting to speak some words. Go
ahead. I just found it very interesting how you brought up the fact of like the first Final Fantasy of each generation of console, because my favorites happen to be 7, 10, and honestly 13.
Which are the
first of each generation of consoles. Yeah.
Yeah. PS1, PS2, and PS3.
I found that very interesting in my brain. So
yeah, but for you, it'd obviously be for very different reasons. But it still
Yeah.
is lining up. It's interesting. Yeah, maybe
Right.
they're just great. I don't know. Although 13 is very polarizing, as you know.
I know it is, and and I'm on the fence of not liking 12. So
I was gonna
I
say
get
so
it.
is 12.
I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
12 is your least favorite so far, isn't it?
I don't want to talk about it.
We can talk about it, Jin. I'm okay with talking about it.
It devolves chat every time. So
Yeah, it's a dividing one for sure. You're not
12 is
wrong.
definitely a 50-50 if you like it or you don't.
Let's go to an
I-
easy question. How about that?
Sure.
When will
Oh,
Easley
for
run
fuck's
Final Fantasy
sake.
9 in his hot tub?
Okay,
Look at
so
this.
the hot tub was ordered now 7 days ago. It had an 8 to 9 week shipping time. So we're looking at 8 weeks.
There you
That's
go.
perfect. Right in the middle of the summer.
Easy
How
question.
appropriate.
And I will be wearing a Kuja cosplay when I do it.
Next up, Dr. Strangewolf. What's your favorite life allegory in a Final Fantasy game? This
I don't know
is a
what that
tough
word
one.
is.
So I think we all could probably agree that like 7 is very much about loss.
Can I get the definition of allegory before I even consider answering this question? Because I don't know that word.
Give you like the exact definition. I'm kind of having a hard time like putting it to words, if I'm being honest.
Allegory sounds like a country.
A story, poem, or picture that can be interpreted to reveal hidden meaning, typically a moral or a political one.
Let me ponder that while I kick my cat out. 1 second.
Go ponder that. Let's see, like which Final Fantasies are really about life? And if you're talking about life, then you're obviously talking about death as well, right? You can't talk about life and not talk about death. So I feel like 10,
kind of.
yeah,
shows
9
that as
definitely
well.
9. Yeah, I mean it's a cycle, really. Like, we're not even a cycle. I say 10's more about the cycle of death. The spiral,
Considering
right?
what the
Spiral spiral.
9's final boss in what it is, without
Yeah.
saying for spoiler purpose, that literally defines that answer.
And what it means to live. How do you prove that you exist? Maybe we don't exist, right? That classic line from Vivi in 9, and he's struggling the entire game with sort of proving to himself that he is alive, that he's real, that he exists, that he's living a life. So 9 definitely stands out.
7 for Cloud in particular. 8 for Squall towards the end.
Via's like, Drew, hear me out. Via, I'm listening. Go ahead. What do you think, Jen? What's your favorite life and death allegory so far in Final Fantasy?
I'm just biased towards 7.
Yeah, you are.
I'm just super biased towards 7.
I think 7's got so much to do with it.
Right.
Does it have a lot to do with the theme of loss?
There's
In
Final
7?
Fantasy 9
Right.
quotes in their category.
Yeah.
I feel like even though I didn't play 7 until much, much, much later down the road, spoiler, we're going to talk about it again. I really appreciated the live stream part at the end where, because we talked about this earlier before we brought Jen on, that I connected with these games a lot during certain periods of loss in my life. And that kind of feeling of like that even though they're not here physically with me, that they are still here, like the driving force, like they live through me, if that makes sense.
And also in the live stream.
And also in the live stream.
The
and
planet,
I feel like
they've returned to the planet.
they returned to the planet, and that was Aerith at the end. And I get all emotional thinking about it. Jen, I remember your 7 finale, and I bet on you. I hope you know that. I bet on you when people were like, "Can he first try it?" No, there's no way. And I'm like,
I did.
I think he can. And I bet on you, and you did it. And
I spent 2 hours on that pre-Sephiroth fight, and
that was.
I remember that.
I remember where I was, Jin. I was in my kitchen. I was watching you on mobile. I had you on the counter. I had to take you everywhere I went because you took forever, as usual. But that's okay. But
I wasn't even talking to chat that night either. I was
you were really focused on that fight, and so many people bet against you because you took so much time on that fight.
Left Fin Sephiroth, says Tony. That's great.
Left Fin Sephiroth. But I'm glad that I was there the whole time because I got to see your reaction at the end when you got to see Aerith. And that's how I felt. That's exactly how I felt. And I was still fresh on it because I beat it in 2020. And I I remember that feeling of like that they're gone, but they're not gone.
It's such an impactful ending, but also so simple. I know some people think it's like a little too simple, and to a certain extent, I do as well with 7. It was restricted by the technology of the time, obviously, but it's such a simple thing they do at the end there by having Aerith fade in, because it's symbolically just meant to mean she's there.
Mm-hmm.
She's always been there. She's in the background. She's watching over. Like she played her part, you know. And I love that simple final shot. It's literally just a final shot of her from the beginning of the game cycling back around to the end of the game. I think it's really cool. Next up, we have 8-Bit Sean, who asked, if you had to pick one Final Fantasy from 1 to 15 to erase from the world, which one would it be?
Does it have to be mainstay, or can it be a sub one?
It's okay, Jin. We can say it. It's okay. It's okay.
What if should we all just say a number? Go around in a circle and say a number without a reason first.
Yes, easily.
15.
Shoop.
Skip me. Go to Jin.
Yo, no, we're not skipping.
We
you.
know Jin's
I have to
answer.
think about it. I have to think about it.
Jin.
12.
12.
Yeah, we knew that one.
It's
Drew?
12. Yeah, 12.
I was gonna. That's the thing is, I haven't played all of them, so that's why I was like, I kind of have to think about it. Should I only choose from the ones that I've played,
Yes.
not counting 12 because I only played it for 5 minutes?
Yes.
If not 12, it was 2 for me, by the way.
Yeah, two's interesting. I'm in the middle of it.
I guess I'll say 15, only because I loved it as a game, not a Final Fantasy. Like, I really loved 15. I really loved the gameplay of 15. Jen has not played it, so I won't spoil a damn thing. But I really loved the play. I loved the play style of 15, and that's coming from someone who loves turn-based combat. But did I love it as a Final Fantasy main title? No. So I would erase 15.
The reason I would say 12 is not because it's a terrible game. And I was tempted to say 10 too, because in some ways I think that 10-2 actually retroactively hurts 10. But the reason I say 12 is because I, at the time especially, felt it represented a dangerous precedent for Final Fantasy in its combat and its mechanics. And I was so concerned that they were going to continue down that path moving forward of MMO style combat in a single player story-driven Final Fantasy game. I was like, no, save this for 11, save this for the MMOs. This is not what I want in my mainline single-player Final Fantasy games.
And then what do you know? They took some of that combat and added it to 7 Remake.
Hmm.
Drugel, were you there for my first 12 stream?
I don't think I was there for your first one.
Okay.
I was there for one of your early
all
ones.
I know is that you should have saw my reaction to the very first fight in the game. I literally had to pause and look at chat in the face. I'm like, is this for real right now? This is the combat?
Yeah.
I literally, the first fight, I was like, this is what this game is?
Was it the tomato?
No, tomato comes a little later as a bounty.
You fight like some soldiers in the very, very beginning.
Yeah,
or
it's
something.
like a flashback.
I literally, like, the first 2 seconds I paused. I'm like, what is this?
Yeah, it was concerning, and I remember being in sort of like a denial actually at the time. I remember I was living at Drexel at the time, and I actually had a loft of roommates. It was 6 of us, and every single one of us was playing 12, and every single one of them was like, "What is this game? This sucks." And I was like, "No, give it a chance, guys. Give it a chance. Like, let's we're speaking too soon." And I was in denial for like a long time before I finally accepted, like, wow, this is not good. This is not what I want in Final Fantasy. Yeah, it took me a while. I loved 7 through 10 so much, and I kind of skipped 11 because of the MMO nature of it. So when 12 came around, I was like, oh yeah, I'm so ready for single player Final Fantasy. I didn't want to admit to myself that it wasn't good. So yeah, I would delete 12 from existence for myself. But easily, you said 15, didn't you?
Yeah, so I mean, I played 15 all the way through, but it took me so long to get to a place where I felt I was remotely enjoying the game. It felt very slow. It felt very tedious, very sluggish. The battle was just, I'm repeating the same thing over and over again. I have no like you can beat the game with just the same combo repeatedly. It felt it didn't feel like it was a challenge. It didn't feel like I was sat there going, I have to think about what I'm doing. And ultimately, the fact that I was sat there driving around in a car for half of the game felt very bleh.
I liked that they at least gave us good music to listen to while we drove
Yeah,
around.
true. Very
That
true.
was
Very
nice.
true.
Yeah, no, the whole entire series pretty much of music. Can't disagree there. That was a that's a that was a nasty question. That's one of those questions meant to divide all of us.
Music?
We need to reunite you guys. Let's see. Our next question. Let me see if I want to take this. Oh, it actually came from Shoop, so I'll allow it. If you can only play one Final Fantasy in the series forever and no other ever again, which one would you choose? I feel like almost everybody's gonna say 14, just because it's kind of like never ending.
Not us.
No,
I don't
not
really say
me.
I won't say that.
No, not me.
I haven't really played 14.
I asked the question, so I'm gonna let y'all answer it first.
There are other games in the Final Fantasy franchise that I'm sure that I'm going to prefer to 14. I know that I'm saying that early because I've only done A Realm Reborn and Heavensward, but 14 has so much content, and you technically, as long as you have online and the servers and all that, you can get together with your friends and live in this Final Fantasy world. So there is something to be said there about that being the one Final Fantasy you play forever. But if I'm neglecting that, I'm kind of leaning towards 10.
Okay. Jin, you had your hand raised.
No, I was going to ask Drew if not 14, then which
Yeah,
one?
I think I'd actually say 10, and I think that's because I recognized over the last year that is the one that when I watch people play it, it's always the one that I'm like, oh my god, I want to play 10 again.
But could you stand replaying without the addition of quicker gameplay, i.e., skipping of some cutscenes? Because the game is inherently slow.
You can't skip cutscenes on console. You can't.
You can't on PC either.
Yeah, but on PC there are mods where you can speed up and things like that.
Oh, so this adds a whole other layer, though. Are we now allowing mods as well? Because then you can get into the whole like challenge runs.
No, it's a very. This is why I made this a very simple question. This is just if you could only play one forever, you can't play any others. This is not me asking what's your favorite Final Fantasy, because my answer is different from what my favorite is.
So is mine.
Mine.
So most people would probably assume I would play 9 forever, but nope, I would play 8.
Okay. I need a little elaboration here.
Because there is so much diversity in the way in which you can play 8. You can play level 1, you can play minimal junctioning, you can play maximum junctioning, you can play triad all the way, you can play no triad all the way. There's so many different ways you can play. You can play using Vincent as your main Vincent, what? Yeah. You can play using Selphie as your main. So much you can do in it. And I feel like people that just go, this is how you play the game with blinders are not experiencing the game.
No, you're not wrong. There's a lot of diversity there. What about you, Shoop?
I would say 10. 9 is my favorite, but I would replay 10, and almost kind of for the same way that Easley was saying about 8, because there is so much you can do to play 8 in so many different ways. So 8 would be right behind that as a choice. But with 10, there are a lot of different ways you can play that. And I feel like only people who have played it for many, many, many years know that there are a lot of things you can do to like almost handicap yourself. And
oh yeah, the sphere grid is so there's so much diversity in the sphere grid.
Runs.
Yeah.
Right, but I know that at the end of 10, I'm always going to have the same, if not a similar emotional reaction. So I'm still going to get my emotional fix at the end of 10. I know that. And I'm going to get a beautiful journey along the way. I know that. I'm going to get relatable characters, even if some of them are a bit of pain in the ass sometimes. But point is, and even like when I did the Dark Aeons, like in my last playthrough, I really handicapped myself by not playing with Riku. I refused to use Riku because every guide on the internet that you can look up for the Dark Aeons is use Riku to do this, use Riku to do that. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do something I've never done before. I'm not going to use Riku except for penance. But like I don't know. And it's just.
They only suggest user for Hyper Mighty G. Aside from that.
Yeah. Jen,
I don't think I could ever tire of 10's music, gameplay, or story.
Yeah, I get that. That's one of the reasons I keep wanting to come back to it. What about you, Jin?
Mine is the same as easily,
8.
Yeah,
which
for the
may
same reason.
as a surprise. Same reason, and honestly, there is like I feel like 8 is the one again I want to replay the most because I feel like I did miss a lot of the world building the game had to offer. There was a lot of NPCs I didn't get to interact with. There was obviously Triple Triad. I only got to play an hour of, and I don't know. It may just be because it's the game I want to go back and play, and obviously the only game I've played more than once at this point is Final Fantasy VI. Um, but I feel like as far as customizability and like the combat system, 8 had a lot to offer as far as that regard. And there was a lot in 8 that I honestly didn't do. I didn't upgrade my weapons a single time when playing 8, not a single time.
Neither did Cherry. It's okay.
Oh my gosh, Cherry's final boss fight against Ultimecia was one to witness.
I just typed Cherry's Angel Wing is goated.
Yeah.
That was great on our end as well when we did our let's call it speed run during our birthday marathon. That was exciting trying to finish Ultimecia at the end of that with our like limited. We weren't very strong. We were definitely underpowered. That was pretty cool.
That was rough.
If anyone has seen my Requiem mod run at all, I abuse Angel Wing. Abuse it. I take off any magic she has, which is supportive, which is potentially like status ailments, things like that, and leave her with purely Meteor, Flare, Ultima, things like that. And there you go.
Now, when you have Angel Wing, does it use like
it uses from what you have?
But it actually
it doesn't use them. It doesn't use them.
Wow, so it actually doesn't deplete your quantity of those.
No,
oh, wow.
and they're stronger as well.
Angel Wing
is busted. Yeah.
It buffs the damage they do. She gets put in haste. She does all these abilities. If you put her with Meltdown, it doesn't affect her. This doesn't affect in standard gameplay, but in particular on the Requiem, if you give her Meltdown on the Requiem reduces your magic defense, not your vitality. So you give her that, and she spams magic that do max damage on a mode where you're gonna struggle to hit 5k.
Yeah.
So if that's how I abused it for that mode, but it is genuinely phenomenal. If you're struggling to beat something, just keep Renoa alive. Just that's it. She'll do all the work.
We watched Cherry when Cherry beat 8, and this was her first playthrough. She was really having fun with Angel Wing on a lot of bosses. She was like, well, "This is great. Renoa's just hitting him." And she gets to Ultimecia in space, and Jin whispers me, and he's like, "Shoop," because her other party members are dead. He's like, "Shoop, why hasn't her party been swapped out yet? Like, what's happening?" And you know how the Ultimecia, it says they get like taken away to time or disintegrated by time, and another party member swaps in. Renoa was so batshit crazy with her Angel Wing that the game didn't have a turn. It's not that Ultimecia didn't have the turn, it's that Renoa was holding the game's ATB, so her party members couldn't disappear. And Cherry's just like, "What am I supposed to do? Is it just going to be like this forever?" And Jin messaged me. He goes, "Is anyone ever going to get a turn? Are her party members going to come in?" And I'm like, at this rate, no.
Nope.
The game's not getting a turn.
Cherry only did one thing. Cherry did one thing, and that was activate Angel Wing and beat the final boss first try.
Yep.
That's hilarious.
Shockingly, that's something you can do.
I was mind blown. I was like, "Is this really happening?"
We're gonna kind of breeze through a couple questions here. I'm actually gonna skip a few that I feel like we already discussed. Just real quick, Emmy asked, "Do you pronounce it Titus or Titus?" Just literally down the line, easily.
Titus.
Shoop.
Iced tea.
Jinray.
I used to be a Team Titus, but I am now Titus.
Yo, let's go. What converted you?
Well, I learned that I got proof that it is actually Titus.
Yes.
So that's all.
So you actually accepted the truth. A lot of people don't accept the truth.
Well, I just want to know that I said both. I said both throughout my playthrough of 10 because no one was actually like giving me.
Yeah, say it however you like. Yeah.
How to say it. So I preferred Titus because that's what made sense to me. But then I learned the lore, and I learned that they actually do pronounce it Titus.
Yeah, it's Titus for me as well, just because I knew that before the game even released. So I never really had that moment of like, years of it being Titus in my head, only to find out that it actually is Titus. You know.
Yeah, it's Titus
Kyan's
translation.
reasoning. Kyan's reasoning with the sun and the moon is the only reason why I accept, and also because voice actors, the devs, etc. They've all said it's Titus, but I did say Titus for the last 20 years, and it's still very hard for me to not say Titus.
Beard asks, what Final Fantasy game has the best overall music throughout the entire game?
It's a tie.
7 easy.
See, I wouldn't have said 7 back in the OG days. It wasn't until Remake that I feel like I appreciated 7's music more than ever. I would have said 8. I would have said 8 until nostalgia. 7 Remake. Yeah.
It's a tie between 7 and 8 for me.
Yeah.
I always say that.
8 captures the more epic parts of the game better, but I feel like 7 has the best overall.
Mm-hmm.
There's a very consistent atmosphere and tone to 7 that I respect. I feel like they really nailed that. Shoot, what were we going to say? Sorry.
I'm going to say something really controversial that might piss a lot of people off.
What, don't say like 10-2?
Well, that's part of it, but the other part is 7's music bores me compared to 8, 9, 10, and 10-2. Compared to, I'm just saying. I just think it's because they hadn't... 7's music was revolutionary in certain pieces, like One Winged Angel and things like that. But throughout the gameplay, I was not excited for certain towns.
Right.
For certain, you know what I mean?
That's,
like
you're actually speaking exactly what I was saying. That's why 7, when it first released, wasn't my favorite, because you could tell how limited it was by the hardware. It wasn't until 7 Remake mastered those melodies that I was like, oh my god, okay.
Yeah, but no, it's not 10-2 throughout the game. 10-2 has some great music, but if I have to pick one throughout the game, it's 9. And it's because every town you go to, for me, every big cut scene, I mean, every full motion video has amazing music. The Silver Dragon part, I love that song. The little simple bit at the beginning when you're fighting King Leo, you only hear the song once in the entire game for maybe 2 minutes, called Swords of Fury.
You know the music they use for Silver Dragon?
Yeah.
To me, I've always said that should have been for Garland.
Oh, yeah, that song's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just 9 for me overall throughout every aspect of the game. I could listen to 9 soundtrack all day long.
I do respect the 15 love I'm seeing in chat. 15 actually does have a really good soundtrack.
Jin, go ahead.
Well, I'm just another question on top of this. I'm curious what your guys' least favorite soundtrack is, because I know what mine is.
It's 12. Sorry. Easily 12.
Mine's 12.
I've heard.
I don't like that composer.
I've heard 12 is not good.
There is nothing memorable.
I wasn't fond of 12's music at all. I ended up
that's another thing that bothers
the game and putting on music.
A music in a video game really just is a deciding factor for me, whether or not I like the game.
So.
It's a different style of music. It sets the tone. It sets the mood.
Right. What makes so many people love a Uematsu, or to go to movies, a John Williams, and it's a simple thing, is people like simple melodies. They like melodies that stick with you. They like melodies that you can hum in your head, and that is why it sticks with you. And I get that it's not near as complex as probably what 12 is doing, but that's exactly why I think a lot of people don't like 12, is because there's nothing memorable because of the complexity of it. It's all atmospheric. There's nothing where it's like, I can remember when I hear the song exactly where I was. But if you hear any song from 7, 8, 9, 10, you know exactly where that is. You know exactly where you were. You know, that's why we have nostalgia for those songs, because we remember the moment it played, the cutscene it played during. That's what makes those songs special.
I don't know 12's music, and I've never heard anyone be like, oh, you've got to listen to 12's music. That's okay.
There is nothing.
So.
I don't want to why, but it's still linked to music. Which of the games has your most favorite song out of them?
Ooh, that's so...
I
can't. There's so many amazing songs.
I'd have to ponder that for like a couple weeks.
What was the question again?
Favorite song.
Favorite song. I'm tied between 2 personally, but
all-time favorite.
Aerith's theme is up there for me.
I feel like Final Fantasy IV battle theme, or is it the boss theme?
That's very, very fair, that one.
Nice. That's cool. I like that. I look forward to... I don't remember, really. I look forward to getting that on the Pixel Remaster.
I think Shoop could name both of mine, probably.
I know one of them is You're Not Alone from 9.
Yes.
Yeah, that's up there.
Can I get a hint as to what the game is?
7.
It's from 7. Oh, gosh. I have no idea then. I don't know the other one.
Hold on.
Huh?
Genova's theme?
Yeah, that's what I was going to guess. Yeah, damn. All right, yeah. I'm not surprised. And now I think it's better than ever, even as well with 7 Remake.
Mhm.
But yeah,
I will
7
not
Remake
choose
took
my
those
favorite.
songs and just took
Gilgamesh
them to
theme
another level.
in 5.
I don't know
Everyone
that one. I haven't
Okay.
played 5.
Gilgamesh theme in 5 was a very surprising one. I actually loved 5 soundtrack, by the way, especially in the Pixel remaster. That one's actually up there for me.
I'm
The
excited
Pixel
for it.
Remasters music is stellar.
It's
by
great.
the way.
And
It just shows the power of Uematsu again, because these melodies, man, they are so strong. Like, they're so damn good. What's up,
Man.
Shoop?
I was singing the Final Fantasy 1 Pixel Remaster airship theme in the shower when I was getting ready for the show.
Yep.
I was literally washing my hair going da-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. Like it's addicting. The music in these series is addicting.
I really like that 1's music had a lot of like adventure and energy to it. I like that 2 suddenly went really somber. I do appreciate that, but there was something about when like you literally start 1 and you come out of that credits at the beginning and you're on the open world and the music starts and you're like, holy shit, I'm ready for adventure. Let's go. Like, I thought that was really cool about Final Fantasy 1. But then Final Fantasy 2, it's like, wow, I feel like I'm hearing Centra Ruins right now in the open world, and this is kind of neat, as you pointed out.
I thought it was kind of funny that B said worst song in Final Fantasy is the Chocobo theme from Final Fantasy 2. Drew got his Chocobo for the first time last night.
Mm-hmm.
And I was excited to hear the Chocobo theme because I was like, oh, introduction to Chocobos into the series. But then I was listening to it and I was like, this sounds terrible.
It just feels like the first draft kind of
Yeah,
of the Chocobo theme.
It's the rough draft version.
Yeah, it does seem that way. I have to agree with you. All right, let's see. What do we got next? Oh my god.
I'm sure the Pixel remaster fixed it a bit.
Emmy's just got so many troll questions.
That does not surprise me.
Is it true Jin has an only Jins?
no.
No.
Yes.
Answer. There you go. Done.
Who asked that one?
That was Emmy.
Okay. No.
All right, next up. Dapper Chocobo, would Shoop like to see a Final Fantasy X-3, and would you want them to adapt it off of the Nojima novel thing or something completely new and separate?
I will not acknowledge that the Nojima novel even exists. First of all.
Agreed.
Well, that answers that.
Agreed.
So let me touch on this really quick for those of you who don't know what this is. So if you have the Final Fantasy X and X-2 HD remaster, there is an option in the credit section to listen to this audiobook basically that's created after X-2. And I don't want to spoil it for anybody who wants to listen to it themselves. I don't recommend that you do listen to it. I think it completely negates everything that happened in X-2 and X. And it's just kind of like, then what was the point of 10? What was the entire point? I think it's absolutely ridiculous.
B
so no,
thinks
I
that
don't.
Nojima is sabotaging. Like, literally, he wrote it that bad so that it wouldn't happen.
It was like, I was. Well,
Could
good.
you imagine?
I'm glad. It makes me angry. I'm sorry. I get angry about this because I thought it was an absolute insult, to
Yeah.
what 10 was. But moving off of that point, if there was ever a 10-3, I don't want it to be called 10-3. I would want it to be based in Spira. If they did another Spira game, right? I would want it to either. I know a lot of people want like a Braska Jekt Orin story, which is fine. I wouldn't mind that. That would be cool, like a prequel. But we all know how it ends anyway. We know how their journey goes based on Jekt spheres, and we know how it ends, and we know how it continues in 10. I would like to see a World of Spira 1,000 years ago with Yunalesca's story. And I preached this, and I've been preaching this from the day I started on Twitch. I would love to see Yunalesca and Yu Yevon and learn more about her husband, Zayon. I would love to learn more about her relationship with her father as a summoner, father and daughter, the War of Bavel and Xanarkand, the destruction of Xanarkand, which, like, everything. I want to learn about that. I don't give two shits about what happens after Yuna and Titus.
Mm-hmm.
Titus.
There you go.
Ice-T. That's my, passionate.
This is not a question from Ray, but he did want to say a huge shout out to Drew Easley, Shoop for putting on an amazing show. Also to Jin for coming on and adding to it.
Thank you, Ray, for that.
Snaps.
And we got 2 more questions. Another one from Adobeard here, who asked, which secondary character, not main character, party member, do you want to see be the main character in a spin-off game? You kind of already answered that in a way. Shoop with 10, right?
Yeah, I kind of already
Like
touched on that
Unalesca
one with
could be cool.
Unalesca.
What about Laguna from 8?
I would
That'd
love
be
that.
good. That'd be good.
Because we don't really get to see his full story, right? We get to see bits and pieces in the dream world, but we don't get to see his entire adventure. That would be nice.
Yeah. We don't even. I was gonna ask a question, but I feel like it'll be spoilers. Never mind.
Kind of like one where you get to play as the Tantalus crew from 9.
Ooh, that's cool. That's fun. I like that. Very
Very
adventurous idea. That'd be
What
nice.
about Zell's library girl? I think she deserves a story.
Jin just perked up. I feel like when he heard that.
No, there's a random noise in my ear.
Oh.
Is that your Is that your Discord notifications?
That's not mine.
I keep hearing somebody's, and I don't know whose it is, but it's very quiet. But anyway, go on.
That might have been my phone.
All right, we have one more question, you guys, from Sweet Hunbags. I'm playing both 7 and 4 right now, going for the super bosses of each game. No spoilers from me. What are your favorite super bosses? Jin, do you really get into the super boss thing? Like, or do you kind of like... No, this is like a legitimate question. Like, a lot of people just, like, when they finish a story, they're kind of, like, done. You know what I mean? It's like, I've gotten my fill. I got the story. That's what I wanted. I'm not going to go off and play for another 100 hours to do super bosses. That's not for everybody. You know what I mean?
So the thing for me is before I started streaming, I was a completionist gamer. I was one of those people that always wanted to get the platinum trophy, do everything I could. But the fact of the matter is, and this is just a me personal thing, is that I only have so much time in a year, in a lifetime. I would love to sit down and 100% each and every single one of these games, but that's going to make it last 3 times as long. And this series in general has already taken me a year and a quarter of my life to do. So imagine, like, and I say this all the time, I love Final Fantasy. I love the heck of it. I would not have been streaming for a year straight if I didn't. But there's so many other games out there I want to play in the series that I've heard about and I want to try. So I unfortunately have not done a lot of the super bosses in these games yet. I think the only instance where there was actually 2 instances I found super bosses. One was I accidentally ran into Jimbo. I forget what it's called.
Dark Yojimbo?
Dark Yojimbo. I accidentally ran into Dark Yojimbo. There, I have a famous clip of me running into Dark Yojimbo and getting instantly team wiped.
He always opens with Wakizashi.
And then the other one was in FF7 when you dive underwater and there's one of the weapons.
The emerald weapon.
I think that's emerald. Yeah.
Is that emerald? Well, I ran into that, and it just like there's another famous clip of mine. It just like it does its one move. My party member died, and I'm sitting there like, what just happened? What was this? But yeah, no. Otherwise, I mean, and no, I normally love doing side content in super bosses. I just I don't got the time right now. Maybe one day. Sorry.
No, go on. Finish.
No, I was gonna say because Megan. I was inspired by an idea of Megan's. Megan did a stream a long time ago. I think it was a year ago now, where she did a boss rush stream, where she specifically did a stream specifically to go through games and she's been playing in the past and tried out the super bosses. So I think that's an idea I might try to do eventually.
I was going to suggest feel free to load from your files that you've already completed and build off there. Like, don't start a brand new game to do like a plat run.
But what about FFH? What about that boss that Cherry tried to fight?
I was actually going to mention that. Okay, so that's my favorite. Shockingly. Omega Weapon in Final Fantasy VIII is actually my favorite super boss, and I'm going to explain why. So 9, I love Ozma. I do. Very RNG heavy. Ozma was the very first super boss I ever fought as a kid. I loved Ozma. Nemesis in 10, and then Penance and the Dark Aeons in the 10 remaster. Lovely. Love them all. They're great. I've fought all of the super bosses in 7, 8, 9, and 10. But 8, here's the thing about Omega, and Jin, you brought this to my attention when Cherry ran into him, that in the original release of 8, Omega Weapon was automatically locked in at 100, level 100. And in the remaster now on Steam or on console, you can fight him based on a level of your party. So he's a lot easier now in a way, because if you come into, Ultimicia's Castle at a low level, Omega Weapon's not going to be nearly as hard. However, I have always taken it upon myself, because I'm a nutcase, I will save, and I do a lot of stack grinding in 8. So I will save Irvine and Zell the entire game. I will not touch them until disc 4 and leave them the lowest level possible. Yep, Easley's over there and that way I've already got my GF abilities, such as strength bonus, spirit bonus, vitality bonus, and I equip all of those bonuses. So every time they level up from where I leave them, which is level 10 or 11, and I max those stats out to 255 if I can. And then I go fight Omega Weapon with this beast of a party, and I make him look like a doggy 2-toy. And it's my favorite thing, because I'm fighting him at the hardest possibility that you can fight him at, but I come prepared every time.
I abuse that fight. Holy War Trial and Aura.
I've never used invincibility in that fight. And I've died countless times because of it, but it feels so good when you fight him at max level without invincibility, as long as you know his pattern, because he's a patterned boss.
Yeah,
if you know the abilities that he's going to use, you can beat him.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
So, yeah.
Easily.
I love the reward you get, by the way.
The reward you get. It's the what is it called? What was it? A Mark of Conquest? No, that's 10. Omega. It's literally a little stupid participation trophy that says, "Good job, you did it."
Yeah.
Hardest boss in the game. Good job.
Yeah.
Way to go.
I am tied on a few super bosses. So there's Omega Weapon, because of the number of ways you can choose to fight him. Penance, because the sheer effort you have to get in to even beat Penance in the first place. And controversially speaking, Hellworm from Final Fantasy 12. I don't like the Yuzumat, I think it is the stronger one, because Yuzumat took me 3 hours and 46 minutes consistent fighting without speed ups to beat, so I didn't want to do that one again. But the Hellworm took 45 minutes, and it was interesting how I had to get set up to fight it. I liked fighting that one. I love fighting the Emerald Weapon, but I don't like fighting Ruby Weapon because it's abusable. So to me, it's between Omega Weapon from 8, Penance from 10, and Hellworm from 12.
How about you, Drew?
This doesn't matter to me very much, I'll be honest with you. Never been somebody that really cares that much about the super bosses type stuff. I've done Ozma, I've done all the weapons in 7. I did all the super bosses in 8, and honestly, it just all kind of blurs together. I don't know. I've never been somebody that really felt very much for putting in all the work to do the super bosses. I'm like I was kind of alluding to at the beginning. I'm more somebody that once I've completed the story, a part of me checks out a little bit. It's like I got the story. That's what I came for. You know what I mean? And then I have to struggle sometimes if I do want to go all the way to the end and do all the super bosses. It's rare that if a game does make me want to do that, then it's special. I feel like if it makes me feel incentivized to do that.
I know Yasmat. I have to acknowledge this in chat for a second, that a lot of people who I saw online, and I remember looking up super bosses on YouTube when I was a kid and stuff, and Yasmat taking people hours to beat him. And the first time B told me that she beat him in 48 minutes, I was like, how?
I'm very curious how. I was low level when I did it, and
I think she used the gambit system to the best of her ability.
Yeah. I would say I was very unprepared when I did it, which is probably why it took quite as long as that. But 48 minutes is lower than I've ever seen anyone do it, to be honest, which is incredible. So, that's incredible.
Well done.
Yeah, I've never played 12, but I do know, just based off of basic research I've done over the years, that's one of the hardest super bosses, and not just Final Fantasy, but most game series.
It's not a difficult fight.
It's lengthy.
It's lengthy with a repeated pattern. I say repeated pattern. It changes pattern throughout the fight, but it's an easy pattern with it's a repeated pattern with it's an easy boss. It just takes a long time, hits quite hard, but it's somewhat abusable. Go on, Jen.
I will say one thing about 12, and a lot of people that have played 12 and actually do like the game, I've never seen a player base more passionate about telling me to actually do all the side content.
Yes, there is so much side content in 12.
Yeah,
but
that's
it's
one
not
of the best
trackable.
parts is the bounty type stuff. Yeah, which 16 has, by the way. 16 has the whole bounty board system and all that. So pretty excited about that because I do enjoy bounties. They're always a good diversion. So looking forward to that. But we've gone so far over. I apologize, you guys. It's like getting close to 11 p.m. Eastern time. It's so early.
Yeah, we went almost an hour over, but it was great.
This is like early afternoon. Don't worry about that.
It's like early afternoon, but this was so much fun. Jin, especially, thank you for sticking around with us and just kind of hanging out to talk Final Fantasy and answer some questions.
Absolutely.
After your amazing performance in Final Fantasy Jeopardy. You just absolutely killed it. Way to go.
I honestly, Jin, I feel like I want a 1v1 Jin on a Final Fantasy VII Jeopardy because I feel like he'd smoke me, honestly. Because I've only played 7 once and I didn't play it with just me and my time. So
I feel like 7 is definitely like one I remember the most just because I enjoyed that one the most. So
yeah, that makes sense. Why not? Yeah. One thing I want to say before we wrap up here, especially, is that all 4 of us are streamers, and even though this show is going to be here on twitch.tv/Rugal on the first Thursday of every month, it is very important to me, and it's been very important to me from the very beginning when I talked with Shoop and Easily about forming the show, that it is almost like it's not on this channel at all. It's hosted here just because I kind of have the talk show set up and I'm used to doing these kind of things, but this has been a joint project from the very beginning. A passion project. So I please ask all of you, I implore you to go to Easily 18, Ricey Shoepuff, and our special guest, Jin Ray. Give them the follows. Amazing Final Fantasy streamers and more, of course, not just Final Fantasy streamers. Just in general, they're amazing streamers. And I think you'll really enjoy that if you haven't already been to those channels. And if you enjoyed this episode, hit that follow button here and definitely get on the Discord. As you saw, all of those equation of the month responses, so many great ones. We only did 5 out of 13 of them. They're all so great, and I wish we could have gone to more of them. And I hope in future episodes we can maybe allot our time better to make sure we do get to more of those. But get on the Discord. We'll have another question of the month coming your way in the next week or so for you to answer for the next episode of Crystal Bears, which, by the way, will be on July 6th.
Can I just say something really quick before we wrap up?
Yeah.
I want to acknowledge, first of all, happy anniversary, Drew.
Happy anniversary. Still technically our anniversary.
It's still June 1st. Thank you, Jen, for introducing us with your left fin fight. But
absolutely.
I want to give Drew the credit where credit is due. And I see Easily
That's
nodding.
exactly what I wanted to say as well.
Yeah, Easily and I, as much as we are a part of the Crystal Bears, just as much as Drew is.
We put in like 10% of the work. Drew put in like 90% of it.
Yeah, he made everything from the logo. He got the person to he commissioned the person to do the logo, our sprites as well, for the little experience down there.
Quite honestly, I came to Drew with an idea, and he took the idea and literally gave it life. So Drew, thank you so much for this.
I enjoy doing this kind of stuff, and yeah, all the graphics and stuff. That's what I enjoy doing. So, all the other things outside of the main logo and the sprites down there, I had so much fun making the question of the month and the Moogle mailbox and the topic of the month. And it was really cool to see in chat that you guys were like, "Oh my god, the topic of the month!" I really like that. Like the way it was the Final Fantasy 14 main quest token with the music, which is, by the way, randomized. I have all 5 expansions. So it'll be randomized each month. I don't know which one we're going to get, but each month it'll be a different, potentially, main quest tune from Final Fantasy 14. And we got more stuff to come, of course. And please, on the Discord, we have a suggestions area. If there was anything that you thought was lacking in this episode, things that we can do better, or maybe you have ideas for segments, or maybe you want to make a Jeopardy board and send it our way. I saw Zarkano made a Jeopardy board and sent it to me. So that's amazing as well, because that's a lot of work for starters.
It is. The Jeopardy is a big thing, and as well as whoever makes the board can't play it because they know all the answers. So myself, Easley, and Drew are all rotating each month to make a different board, so that way each person can participate each month. But if other people want to make those boards and send it to us so that we can play with our guests as well, all three of us, you're more than welcome to.
And I do really quickly want to say, since you brought up our anniversary, like, this is why we met. Like, if it wasn't for Final Fantasy, we would not have met. And Jin, of course. Shout out to Jin. But yeah, I mean, Final Fantasy is such an important thing to me. Like I said, it's largely defined who I have become as a person. I don't think I would be here. I really don't think I'd be streaming. I don't think I would be doing any things I was doing if it wasn't for starting with this franchise. And now I wouldn't have met Shoop, who I'm now with, and we're going to be moving in together next month or in 2 months, and all that wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for this series. So
yeah,
it's kind of pretty important to me, and I'm glad that I get to share that with more people than ever, hopefully through this talk show with you guys.
I've met my partner thanks to Final Fantasy, and I'm sandwiched here in between two of my favorite people. You know, I mean, it's
Shoop sandwich.
I literally met Shoop and Drew both because of this. Jin, separate but hi. But at the same point, I've seen more of Jin play Final Fantasy than anything else as well. It's how we all know each other more than any other way, I think.
Yeah, it was a pleasure having you
on. Obviously, my thing is that this series, whether I like it or not, has changed my life, has changed the trajectory of my Twitch page, has grown this community to what it is today. I hit 4.5K today. My community has grown twofold in the past year. I've hit partner. I owe a lot to this series and to this community, and my life has forever changed because of all of you here, everyone in chat, everyone in my community. So this series will always mean a lot to me, and the friends I made along the way. It's been without a doubt the best past year in my life because of it. So thank you all.
We're glad to have met you. I am curious, really quick, since you actually mentioned it before we head out. Since I met you when you were playing 10. 10 was your first Final Fantasy, right?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, so I met you when you were playing 10. What were you playing on your channel before you approached Final Fantasy?
I was heavily variety, but mainly I was a Zelda streamer. I was streaming through all the Zelda games initially.
Okay.
Kind of like how I was doing Final Fantasy. So
Zelda to Final Fantasy is a good bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, for sure.
Right.
All right, you guys, as I said, hit the follow buttons on all the channels. Easily, Shoop, Jinray. Get on the Discord. It just got posted in chat, like right now. Get on the Discord. Become a member of the Crystal Bears category on there. Get in on Question of the Month and anything else that we add to it. It's been such a pleasure. I think we're going to raid. I was thinking Ari is here would be a good raid tonight. Hopefully,
What's
she's going to be finishing Final Fantasy X. She is literally on Vraska's Final Aeon right now.
Oh, yes, please.
So we're going to do our credits, which, by the way, thank you so much to everything that happened throughout the show. This is always going to be the way it works. We're not going to really heavily shout out things that happen in the middle of the show since this is such a conversational podcast, but we do have the credits to recognize all the support that has come in. So stay tuned for the credits, and after the credits end, we are going to raid out to Ari is here, give a whole lot of love to Ari as they try to complete Final Fantasy X, which we talked about a lot tonight. And that is it for us. Any final words, Crystal Bears?
I will be playing 16 sooner than it sounds.
Oh,
surprise on that, but just leaving it as that.
Okay.
I just wanted to acknowledge that Jen and I both have the same poster behind our house.
I noticed that. I was wondering. It looks like they blend together. I was like, what is happening here?
I was looking too, and I was really confused, and I was like, why is my poster and Jen? Wait, oh, that's right. We have the same Orin.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was cool.
Jen, final words.
Final words is I'm super happy for all of you. Congrats on the very first episode of this brand new awesome series. I can't wait to see how much it grows and how much it adapts And obviously, shout outs to Droogle. You do amazing. You're an inspiration to me. I don't get to say it enough, but you really, really are, my man. I know you say I'm an inspiration for you, but it's right back to you. I'm proud of you. Thank you, Shoop. Thank you, Easley. It's been an honor.
All right.
Thank
I love you guys.
Love you
and I love Final Fantasy. Bye, guys. We'll see you next time.
Bye.